Hi, and welcome back to the Big Deal podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. If you want to be respected for your words to carry weight, then this episode is for you. I'm breaking down the communication techniques the top 1% use to get people leaning in, not tuning out. By the end, you'll know how to stop sounding like everyone else and start speaking like the leader people want to follow. So today, I want you to steal my confidence and respect. First, speak in headlines. Start with the point, not the preamble. I obsess on my first sentence. Why? Executives don't waste time on throat clearing or setting up a big runway before they get to the takeoff. By giving the headline first, you frame the conversation and make people lean in instead of tune out. This is also how you never have somebody repeat your idea to a group of people and be able to take credit for it again, right? When you speak decisively and you say something in front of a group, it would be ridiculous for somebody else to reframe your ideas and take them as your own. This is called decisive speech. Here's what that means. Clear, direct statements, limited hedging, and using few qualifiers or apologies. That's really signaling I am competent. Let's say you want to talk to someone for a few minutes. You're trying to get a few seconds with them, a boss, a coworker. I brought this up last week, and what I think we should do instead is probably talk about this a little bit more, or we could table it and talk about it later. Can I steal a few minutes? Is now a good time? Hey, can we talk about that? A good time for what? Why? Why do you need to steal my minutes? Where are they going? What you don't realize, most people sound like that. You instead will sound something like this. I have a problem that is leading to missed revenue. Can we discuss no longer than 5 minutes? Or I found a problem. I have a solution. I need 30 seconds to get an okay for it. The formula is what's wrong? Why does the other person care? How long will you bother them? The real issue here is marketing. It's not moving fast enough. We need to replace these two hires. The budget is too low. If we do these three things, work in 24-hour cycles, spend 1 hour a day recruiting, increase the budget, we will win. That is how you get people to listen to you. Warmth and competence. It's not how smart, rich, or pretty you are. Respect is about how fast you can signal, I'm a friend, which is trust and warmth. And you can rely on me, competence. The faster you can signal those two things, the more people like you and respect you. I learned this from the #1 behavioral psychologist I know, Vanessa Van Edwards. There are warmth cues. That means like smiling, nodding, for instance. A fun one is the slow triple nod, which is like this. The other person speaks 67% longer. That's because it is a nonverbal way to say, I hear you, I see you, tell me more. If instead you go, three fast shakes like that, what is that signaling? Okay, move it along, I'm ready to go. Let's keep talking here about something else. You do 3 little nods, a pause, and that signals, hey, I'm warm. I want you to keep listening. Another warmth cue is a head tilt. So you could say, I have some news. Straight shoulders, no movement, I have some news. That is a competent way to do it, but not warmth. A warmth cue would be like, I have some news. What are the two things that change? Head tilt and a lift of the shoulders. Now, more competence cues for those of you who are listening, which is probably the most important thing you can do, is confident posture. So that's standing tall, shoulders back, occupying space, shows certainty, credibility. Not hands below the table, hands in lap, hands hidden. Instead, hands on the table or in the microphone, showing straight up and shoulders back. Another way to show competence, steepling of the fingers. I'm listening. I'm thinking about that. What do we think we could do there? It's not like this, though. That looks creepy. This is a classic gesture. What it basically means is, hey, I'm self-assured. Next, cut words, add weight. You want to use fewer words, but make them sharper. We'll double revenue in 12 months. Okay, that is better than we have a plan to increase revenue significantly over the next year. Like, what's significantly? When next year? We want numbers, data, and credentials. So when we mention certifications, awards, supporting ideas with numbers, it reinforces our expertise. So we don't have to be better or smarter. The numbers do that for us. Data plus brevity signals confidence, and it makes every word carry weight, which commands attention to us. So if I was a boss and I said, tell me what you're going to do about this problem. A bad example would be something like, Well, I think maybe what we should do next is try, new hiring processes, or maybe we could talk to, so-and-so about that person that they knew last week. I'm not really sure. Can I get back to you? Bad answer. A good answer is pause. My gut reaction, which allows you to back out of it later if you find a better reaction. My gut reaction is, first step, we go and we talk to this person. Second step, we write down the findings. Third step, we come back together in 24 hours for an assessment because I don't want to make too quick of a decision. What do you think? Great. You've basically non-committed just as much as the other person has, but you sound like you have authority, even while you're saying, I don't know, I got to talk to a couple of people. It'll probably take me a day or two, right? Instead, we're pausing, we're framing, and we're saying we're going to regroup at a date, time, and checking for understanding. Speak like you want to be heard. This falls into 3 categories. I call it the get. Gestures, eyes, tone. So you get heard. So let's talk about gestures first. Gestures need to be precise. Using clear, purposeful hand gestures like finger steepling indicates deep thinking and self-assurance. So we want to really use our hands in an intelligent way. Authoritative vocal tone, speaking with a lower pitch, projecting the voice, avoiding filter words like, like, signals competence and confidence. Narrowing your eyes briefly signals, I'm thinking about this. I'm really focusing on what you're saying. I've got active engagement and analysis. A bad example of a tone, especially for women, sounds like this. Hi, my name is Cody. I'm really excited to work here today. I have worked in marketing for the past 10 years. What am I doing there? Well, I'm getting an uptick at the end of each sentence. Very normal for women to do. Instead, what would I want to do? Hi, my name is Cody. I've been working in marketing for the past 10 years. I'm really excited about what we're going to do here next. I can still smile, I can still nod, but my tone is flat and a little bit lower than normal. If you hear me talk every single day, it probably sounds like, hey, what's going on? Hey guys, how are you? Like, God, I'm so excited to see you. This podcast is going to be so great. That's what I normally sound like. When I'm trying to be competent, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be 1 octave lower and I'm going to be a little bit flatter. When I'm talking to somebody, I'm not trying to be competent. My eyes are big. They're like, I'm curious. I want to know more about that. This face does not make you feel like I'm competent. This face does. So I am going to really focus in. I'm almost going to picture a pinprick of my attention going to that other person. It's signaling I'm listening, but you're going to have to prove to me what you're talking about. Next, master the pause. What to do. After delivering a key point, stop talking. This is where we let the silence work. Why? Pauses, they create gravity. They make your words echo longer and show you're comfortable owning the room without filling space. Let's try. Let's say you have something really hard to say to a group, and you need to say something like, we're not talking about the right things. I might say something like, I think we all know we're not talking about what we need to. Pause. Look around the room. Get in people's eyes. At this point, most people keep talking because they're worried that somebody is going to jump in. You don't have enough competence or authority for people to wait for you to pause dramatically. So how do you fake that authority if you don't have it? You go like this. I think we all know we're not talking about the right thing. Put up a finger. This is basically telling them non-verbally to wait. And if you see somebody jump in, you just push the finger out a little bit more intensely. This allows you to hold the frame. If somebody starts to speak, you shake it a little bit more formally. When I do this in my head, I like the count to 5 as an example. So I think we all know that we're not talking about what we need to. 1, 2, look around the room. 3, 4, 5. Uncomfortable. Then I give an example, then I release the finger and I keep going. Try this in your next meeting. It will blow you away by how much more people will actually listen to what you have to say. Next, tell stories, not stats. Use a narrative. We almost lost that company because of one bad hire. Is much better than, well, turnover rose by 12% last year. Why? Humans follow stories, not spreadsheets. Stories are sticky. Numbers slide off. CEOs weave both, but stories always lead. Historically, we call this passing through parable. At my companies, I have a saying, which is, show me, don't tell me, which means that I want to hear the story, I want to see the data, and I want it backed by numbers. When you have those three, we can get to solutions. But I don't just want you to talk about it, I want you to show me. Let's say you're trying to get a friend to listen to you. You've talked to this person a million times about something that they should do differently in their life, and they have never listened to you to date. I would put a few of these into effect. Let me tell you what a bad example sounds like. Well, you've dated this guy a few times. Do you really think it's going to go well if you keep dating him? Don't you think we've kind of learned our lesson here? Do we want to really date him again? What are we doing? Right? That's questions. You're not holding the frame. You're not pausing. What would a good example look like? Mary, I remember about 6 months ago, you called me in the middle of the night crying. You were despondent. I could barely understand what you were saying. You really couldn't speak because you were crying so hard. I thought maybe somebody had died, but that was the night that you called and told me that he cheated on you and that you would never speak to that man again. And now here we are, 6 months later, when the tears are dried and you're going back to him? Do you feel the difference between the two? One is yeah, well, you've already done this again. Are we going back? Whatever. The second, you will remember. So take a moment and become a storyteller. Over the past 90 days, we've grown by over 60,000 subscribers. Yay, which is crazy. And still, less than half of our viewers are subscribed. So if you could double check your subscribe below, that would be incredibly helpful for the show. You truly are a big deal to me. Let's jump back in. Next, use the 3-point rule. So what to do? Frame everything in threes. This one's super easy and super powerful, so use it wisely. If I wanted to get somebody to follow my framework on something, I might say, here's the opportunity, the risk, and the next step. I don't even have to say 1, 2, 3. I could just show it with my fingers. But I know that it will frame my brain a specific sequence that other people can remember. Why? The brain loves patterns. And we like patterns of 3. The Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. It feels complete, memorable, and persuasive without overwhelming people. Really easy to remember 3, hard to remember 4, very difficult to remember 5. And if you probably haven't noticed, I've been doing that a lot in this video. Anytime you can insert rules of 3 and what I call named and framed segments, your speech will be better. So let's say, for instance, somebody is doing something really stupid, and you want to tell them, wow, that's so stupid. And there are all these underlying reasons why that's so stupid, and we should never do that. Instead, you might say, let's get to first principles on this. Let's get to foundational principles on what we're talking about here. You're basically saying, can we take a step back to really see what's going on? Let's get to second and third order effects, which is a fancy way of saying, what are the repercussions of the actions? If we do that, what's going to happen next? I believe that what's happening right now is a lack of urgency bias. What you're really saying is, I think you guys are slow, really slow. But because we frame it in this fancier way, it's harder to push back on. Next, command the frame. Define the lens others see the conversation through. Example, somebody says something to you and they're like, we shouldn't spend that money, I don't want to. Instead of saying, no, we should spend that money. No, I disagree with you. You say, this isn't about money. It's about survival. This isn't about cost. It's about happiness. This isn't about money. It's about our family. What are you doing? Well, whoever controls the frame controls the debate. In communication, this means not letting somebody else take your frame. You never want to respond with that, not right. No, we're not going to do it that way. I didn't say that. Instead, you would say, that's a separate issue, Matt. Let's focus on the core problem. What you're basically saying is, I don't want to talk about that. I want to focus on this other issue. But you're doing it without ever having to debate and get into the, no, I disagree with you, which is really a childish way to try to communicate. The last part of this that's really important is the way you communicate when we are frame breaking. How people will not allow you to steal their frame is when you fake it. So be really careful about saying, let's focus on the core problem, Matt. It's not really that. This little side smirk here, this is an immediate signal of condescension. I don't like you. I think you're dumb. Or, Matt, that's not really the core issue here. What we're trying to do is something else. This is a fake smile and it's visceral. Like, do you guys feel it? Like, I'm so happy that we're hanging out. You're like, no, you're not. You hate me. Like, you don't even have to say anything. Instead, you need to either turn it off or turn it on. Fake. I'm so happy to be here. No, you're not. I can tell. I'm so happy to be here. I actually have no emotional difference right now between the two. I'm just committed to the bit, right? I'm so happy to be here. And if you can't be happy in the moment, then think about something that makes you happy and plaster that on your face instead. But be really careful with the feelings of condescension coming out on your face. Next, project calm certainty. People trust leaders who seem unshakable. I find certainty to be contagious. Even if you're still figuring things out behind the scenes, be the duck gliding above the water, even though underneath you are paddling like a crazy motherfucker. Now, this is very unpopular for the internet, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. There is no crying in business. Do not cry in meetings when things are going sideways. Do not believe the influencers that tell you that that's okay. Do not show weakness. From an emotional deregulation standpoint, it is not okay to cry. Now, if somebody dies, if you hurt yourself, perfectly fine. If you have something else in your life that just hurts in that moment, okay, of course. But you do not cry because you are frustrated like a small child at your inability to communicate properly in work settings. You allow somebody else to cry. You pass them the tissue. You say, hey, no problem, take your time. But that's not you, because that is not a 1% move ever. Every single leader that I have seen cry in business is not a leader for very long. Business does not allow for crying. You can hate me on the internet for this, but your bank account will love me. Next, name the elephant. Call out the obvious thing when no one wants to. So if you're sitting in a meeting, like I often am, and everybody's sort of talking around the issue, right? There's this big, hairy elephant in the middle of your meeting room. I want you to try out saying it. Guys, are we not hitting our sales numbers because our product isn't good enough yet? That's phase one. We're saying it as a question. We also use the word guys as an opener. It's like, I'm not saying it. It's a question. Guys means it's a question we all have, isn't it? If you have a stronger frame and more authority, you can say, we're not hitting our numbers because our product isn't good enough yet. Now, I did a couple really subtle cues there. I look to the side. I put up my shoulders. I do a little, all of that is a stage 2. And if you want the highest frame, you would say, we are not hitting our numbers because our product is not good enough yet. Straight to frame, serious, no side. Anytime you lift up, side smirk, all of that, warmth cue as opposed to competence cue. Now, leaders earn respect by voicing uncomfortable truths. It breaks tension. It actually makes people believe in you more than anyone else in the room. You should really try it in a room where everybody else is doing the PC thing. If you can find that there is a truth that nobody is talking about, and especially if the truth maybe is on you, that's the ultimate. You know what I think the real problem is, guys? I think I made the wrong call on this. We should have done this. We did this instead. So I'm going to have this outcome. I'm going to take my burden of this. What else should we have done differently? If you are going to do this one, you better be right. And 2, you need to find your ally who already wants you to say the quiet part out loud, but maybe is scared to do it or really needs somebody else to do it. This is also where power dynamics come in. So you're going to need to understand who your allies are ahead of time. Often in meetings, this means that you talk about the meeting before the meeting to game plan. Never feel bad at thinking that top 1% communicators are born with it. That's not true. We prep. The way that you get to the top 1% is you prep more than the other 99% do. And finally, end with a command. Always finish with a clear action. Here's what happens next. By Friday, I want us to decide this. Why? Influence without direction, just noise. CEOs do not leave conversations open-ended. They move people to act. A little extra add-on for you guys. Ask dangerous questions. Lots of people ask safe questions. How's everyone feeling about this? How was your weekend? Instead, get a little sharper. What's the one risk that could kill this deal? Because real leaders don't just talk, they provoke thought. Questions like this make people take you seriously because they can tell you want the truths, not just to dodge. Sometimes the most authoritative thing you can do is say, I don't know, But I think we can find the answer to this question. And if we do, we will find the answer to everything. That is a hard question. Also, if you don't know if you are competent or warm-leaning, let me give you a little piece of homework. Let's say you can't tell if you're going to become a top 1%er because you don't know what you need to lean into more. Go to your email. I learned this from Vanessa. See how many warm versus cold indicators you have. What does that mean? In an email, look at the words. Warm words are words that trigger oxytocin, the happiness drug. So that's like cheers, collaborate, learn, emojis, thank yous, exclamation points, smiley faces. Competent words are words like achieve, mastery, results, outcomes, data, charts, graphs. The truth is that best leaders have both. They use warmth and competence, and they use them like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. But almost every person I've ever met has one side more dialed than the other. If you guys haven't noticed, I am high on competence. I actually am pretty low on warmth. I get serious, and when I'm serious about things, I have a very serious face. And so I kind of am thinking about things. I'm not smiling so much. I need to work on my warmth cues because people could be intimidated by me or scared of me, which I've heard. And so every single one of us is going to be somewhere on this spectrum. The top 1% is both aware and then they prepare.
I think the dirt and the clouds are the only interesting parts of the game.
If you don't know Gary Vaynerchuk, well, you've probably been living under a rock. He has a multiple New York Times bestseller. He has multiple 9-figure businesses.
People ask me how I scale Vayner. 10, 80, 10. I open and close.
So the truth is, you need to be an absolute freak of nature. You have to have outlier behavior.
Do you know how fucking hard it is to make $1 million a year?
How do you know what characteristics a great founder has?
Very early on in my career, I was unstoppable. Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr were my first 3 investments of my life. I went on pure intuition.
What are your craziest predictions when it comes to AI?
My craziest prediction is that most people's grandchildren will marry an AI robot. I had an epiphany. I was like, fuck.
Welcome to the Big Deal Podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez, and today we have a man who is not only able to predict the social media trends of today, he's been doing it for the past 30 years. He's got an audience of millions every single day listening to him about how do I go viral? How do I build big businesses? What is going to happen in the future? And today we get into stuff that he's never talked about before. But what I think is most interesting about what we talk about today is he's going to make some predictions on what's going to happen with AI for all of us. He is going to tell us the secret place to find underpriced attention. So how do we get more money into our businesses by double tapping on this? And he's also going to hit you with what I consider to be like, I don't know, an adrenaline shot level of intensity about why to keep going, how to keep going when things get hard, and what it takes to be a business owner that survives over the long term. Gary V is somebody who's become a friend of mine over the past year, and listening to him talk about things I've never heard him speak about before on the internet was really a true pleasure. So I hope you guys have as much fun as this one. I'm going to listen back to it because I want to build businesses as big as this man did. Without further ado, Gary V. Because when I was looking at your investment Rolodex, holy hell, you have invested in some giant companies. I don't think people know half the things about you fully on the internet, but like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Uber, Snapchat, Coinbase. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So how do you smell like a founder that's going to win? How do you know what characteristics a great founder or CEO has?
Very early on in my career, when I didn't consider myself an investor, I was unstoppable. Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr were my first 3 investments of my life. I only judged what I smelled. I went on pure intuition about the human and the thesis. I wanted to like the idea, and they were far enough along. I wasn't an angel round. Yeah. They were a little further, more an A or pre-A. Then I thought I was a hero because I was red hot, and I started to like read TechCrunch and spend time in Silicon Valley, and I got caught in an era, a 3-year era, where I invested in just the idea, and I thought what I didn't realize at the time, what I was doing is, oh, this is a good idea, and I knew how to run it. I put myself into the CEO chair, started spending less time analyzing the person, went through an era of ideas, and I lost. I invested in a company called Yobongo that basically became, 2 years later, an app called Tinder came out and was Yobongo. I loved Yobongo But the kid was a young kid, and I didn't spend enough time analyzing his stomach, his merit. And this was the explosion of like smart kids and engineers becoming founders.
And Sean is an animal, the founder of Tinder.
Sean, and yes. And so but Sean, that was like 2 years later. Elliot, or I think that's what his name was, like, I didn't analyze him. So what has worked for me? What has worked for me now, when I try to think about it, I think about, do I like the jockey and the horse? Right? This hat that I'm wearing, Siegelman Stables, right? Max and Caro, you know, they're a couple and they're a team. I love them. They're gangsters. They've got it. And in the world of Kith and Rude and Palace and Jerry, Fear of God, I understand the business of when you're the hottest up and coming fashion brand, it's a business. You know what I mean? You can get to a 9-figure exit from a LVMH or da-da-da. So, you know, I'm looking for the jockey and the horse now. The jockey being the entrepreneur, the horse being the business. I need to like both and understand both.
So say I'm sitting across from you and like you're either going to hire me or invest in my company. What are you asking me to tell if you like me or not, or want to take a bet on me?
Usually here's how it goes. I'll go with, hey, Cody, hey, so nice to meet you. I'm so excited about this. Tell me everything. Literally, that's what I will say. Tell me everything is kind of it's not like my go-to question. It's just what I happen to think. It's what I happen to mean. Tell me everything. Like, as much as you want to tell me either about yourself or the business, go. I listen carefully, and then my series of questions is predicated on what I listen to. I'm counterpunching the reality of what I heard. I don't have a go-to other than I need as much context as possible from you right now about you or it. I'm 49, have been pretty much successful in anything I've run, and have had plenty of winning and losing in investment. I can listen and know where I want to go. Sometimes after that code, it's over. Like, even off the rip, right? Like, it's over because, you know, at this point I have such a public life too. Like, I can feel when someone's pandering to, like, well, Gary, I love the hustle and the grit and I love flip. Like, you know, I can tell when someone's trying to game me. And then even if they're trying to game me, I won't even, like, that doesn't eliminate them. That's just a data point.
Right.
Again, because I'm now 49, 22. So for 27 years, for 27 straight years, every day of my life, I have had to be responsible to make payroll with no funding. 27. Like, I'm a real, actual operator. And so it's very easy for me to ask questions, you know?
How fast can you tell?
Sometimes immediately. It's like, you know, like many of us listening know what love at first sight feels like, right? Or crush at first sight, everybody knows. Or like immediately knowing. I'm incredibly intuitive. My emotional intelligence is disproportionately my go-to. So I can tell right away. I can't tell right away if I'm going to hire someone or invest, or if someone's a genius. I can tell right away the things I'm feeling. Like, this is potentially someone remarkable. I can always tell when someone's just an average C player right away. You know what I mean? Pretty quickly. But again, C players for my businesses, when I hire, I love a good C because I think we have a system to get people to Bs. And I think Bs are great.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So you are okay with B and C players. Let's talk about that, actually.
I think most companies, when you're at scale, need plenty of B and C players. A players are always looking.
How do you define that, though, then? Because it's like, you don't want to have a culturally toxic C player. So I mean, what's the difference?
By the way, I think my 5 posts ago on Instagram is, give me an A+ personality and a C player, because C personality is death on arrival. C, let alone D and F, and there are plenty of those people. No, I'm talking about, like, you know, brain power. You know, like firepower, right? Like, not everyone's the sharpest fucking most, you know, like it's just real life. Work ethic. You know, work ethic you can't really tell in an interview. I feel like work ethic's one that you can see more play out and then you decide. I just think that we in my companies care to level people up, and we continue to get better at it. And that's really working for us at scale. So I have a lot of retention. But But yeah, I think I'm looking for firepower, intellectual firepower, personality traits. I'm trying to poke at like self-awareness. I look for humility. I'll give you one that is always let down. Hey, Cody, I'm super excited about this. You know, you're gonna come in and be at a VP level at Vayner, which is a big role. I think the VP director role at my company is really running the companies above the SVPs and the C-suite. You know, we're in an interview, I'm saying that, and then I'm like, Code, real talk, like don't bullshit. I'll say it like this, hey, real talk, don't bullshit me because I'm gonna find out anyway and I want you to be here a long time and I want you to win here. Give me one of your shortcomings in your career. When people go to, Gary, sometimes I care too much and I really like that, I'm like, it's over. You know what I mean? Like, give me something real, please. You know what I mean? Like, it's
I work too hard.
It's like why, when I realized, you know, 5 to 7 years ago, that lack of candor, which is crazy because Gary Vee's candor is off the charts. But Gary Vaynerchuk, the executive, when I realized lack of candor, I struggled giving critical feedback. Yeah. And then the firings would be sloppy because of that, because people would be surprised. When I really had that moment in the mirror with myself, what am I, maybe 49, maybe 42, 43, 44. When I had that moment, literally the next day I started putting it out publicly. That's when I wrote 12 and a half. Because I literally wrote an entire book because I wanted to put out there my shortcoming of candor.
Interesting. Which people probably like almost don't believe because they're
Correct,
like,
because my strength is candor as a public figure talking about things. But Gary Vee and Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm the same. I think, you know, one of the things I always smile about is when people work for me or get to know me, they're like, it's so cool that you're who. I'm the same, but it's a different context. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking to the blank world right now versus someone who's worked for me for 3 years. Here's where my bleeding heart becomes a vulnerability. You stink at Vayner for the last 6 months. It's now a problem. You've been there for 5 years. You've given it all. You've always really given it all. It's a problem. We're leveling up. It's a problem. People around you are fucking pissed. You're not good enough. You're getting paid more than people that are better than you underneath you. It becomes a problem. But I know, because I'm so HR oriented, but I know that your dad has cancer. And I know that you just broke up with your boyfriend. And I'm struggling to fucking fire you. I don't know what else to tell you. It's fucking hard. The end. I don't know what else to say.
Never feels good. It doesn't. But I think also, you know, one of the cool things about you is you are so big. You've been around for so long publicly that also the tough part is sometimes, you know, that's the person that's coming in and firing you, or that's the person that's giving you the critical feedback. It's like this extra fucking layer on top of everything else.
You'll appreciate this. I love you for that. You're right. For some, at 22, at 26, at 29, at 31, at 34 in the wine store, when nobody on earth knew who I was, it was my biggest weakness.
Yeah, interesting. So still always the same.
There was a level of confidence / potentially ego. I always thought I could make it better. Like I definitely would have been the girl that would have went after like fucked up dudes because I thought I could make them better. I would have definitely been that girl. 100,000%. I know it inside.
Like,
I know
it. Fix him.
Yeah, and not like in a fucked up way, in an optimistic way. Not in a like I'm a psycho. In a you know. And the problem for me is I have. My problem in a lot of ways is there are many people within my organization's startups, friend groups, boards I'm on, because I'm so into guidance counselor, coach, therapist, energy, and I have such a yin and yang because of the emotional intelligence, but because of the operational and because of like just wanting to kind of do to the world what my mom did for me, I've been successful at it. I'm just like, names are running through my head right now where like people started off at like a 3 emotionally and are at an 8 strictly because I put my fucking hand on their shoulder. Every teacher, therapist, coach, guidance counselor knows what I'm saying right now. And you know how rewarding that is? Like I've changed the course of this human being's life. I'm doing that with content to the world, let alone imagine someone I can put my hand on their shoulder. So it becomes intoxicating in like, it feels good to help other people for certain people. I know many people don't feel the way I feel, but for me, it feels good. I like it. It feels like the right thing to do.
What is the opposite of that? What is like the advice that you keep having to repeat that you know people need to listen to and they just don't?
By the way, every single thing I say, patience, like insecurity, don't keep up with the Joneses, fuck materialism, eat shit. Like it's both the left and the right struggle with me and like me, right? Because in one side I'm like compassion and all the feelings and everyone's like, ah. On the other side I'm like, kill every fucker, it's all because it is purple. Because life is purple. The reason there's so much tenseness right now is the world, the youth, the elderly, the left, the right, the 40s, every generation, Z, X, Y, boomers, alpha, we're fighting for it's red or it's blue. I'm like, motherfuckers, it's purple, you fucking idiots. You fucking idiots. It's fucking purple. How the fuck don't you understand that? So, what people struggle with everything I say. When I tell parents that you got to stop giving your kids money after they're 22, every parent right now listening who's got a 27-year-old on the payroll doesn't like getting poked like that. But I'm on the receiving end of all this fucking depression DMs from 28-year-olds that are on the payroll. Because parents don't realize if you're paying for your kid when they're a grown adult, you're telling your kid you don't believe in them. Through your actions, not your words. They know they're a loser. Yeah. That shit hurts,
So what do the parents say to you when you say that? Like, what's their excuse for continuing to do that?
In the most private conversations, it's just service level justifying. Like, oh, you don't know my son, like he had this issue. I'm like, everyone had issues. Do you understand every person in the 80s in New Jersey got bullied? Every single kid I grew up with got bullied. The popular ones, the not popular. Like, we've started making these words so big. I told somebody yesterday, don't use the word anxious. You're not. You're inconvenienced.
Great line.
Like we've now just gotten so deep into this shit. This is why so many people are struggling. We've given them permission to not do and fight and fix. Ooh, I've never said it that way. We have given people with all these big words. Do you know what imposter syndrome is? It's called insecurity. We've just given it makeup. Nobody's like, yo, I'm insecure. Nobody says that, Code. But so many people are like, man, I have imposter syndrome. Makeup. Got it? The definition, literally the definition of imposter syndrome is slang for I'm deeply insecure. But nobody comes around and says I'm insecure. But everybody, I have anxiety. People say they have depression when they don't. And that fucks up for people that actually do. I feel bad for the people that actually do.
It's a great point.
And it's confused everybody. Everybody, do you know how bad I feel for all the people that own big businesses who like every person's like, I need a mental health day. And they're like starting to cancel mental health days. And meanwhile, of the 100 people that are abusing it because they just want to play video games or doing fucking nothing. Because I lived that life. Do you know how many sick days I had from 1982 to 1994? 1 million. I tried to get out of school every day. And boy, when 5th grade Gary found out that legally they had to send you home if you went to the nurse and weren't refusing to go back, well, I fucking cooked. I mean, that was everything to me. That discovery, I don't know if I've ever been happier in my life. In 5th grade, somehow, I don't want to bullshit. I don't remember how, but I learned that you could actually you could just stick in, if the nurse said go back to class, you're like, I don't feel well, that if you kept going, they had to send you home. I mean, I didn't, so
Didn't your immigrant parents beat your ass for that?
What was funny, this is why I put my mom on a super pedestal. My mom knew that getting A's in school was not going to lead to my success and happiness. And she did something most parents weren't willing to do and are still not willing to do. And she didn't give a fuck what everybody thought about my D's and F's. Got it? She knew me.
But is that because somewhere else you were showing her obsession?
Of course.
Because if you were a parent that just was like, D's and F's, fuck off, that would be.
She's the same lady that looked at me on my 14th birthday and said, you know how you suck at school? I'm like, yeah. She's like, now you work. I was 14. 14, Code.
I like her.
Like, I worked every weekend, every summer. My last childhood moments, like childhood, ends in 8th grade. There was no fun in high school for me. There was no I worked because I had to pay the consequences of not working in the classroom. Thank God for me, work was my nirvana. Like, thank God for me, I loved my parents so much. Thank God for me, I knew as a teenager that I had it because I was doing baseball card shows at 11 and 12 and grown men. You know, this is why I love, like, that's where I was getting validation from. In school, I was getting D's and F's, and grown-ups were telling me I was gonna be a loser. Teachers in the 80s didn't fuck around. I had teachers like Dr. DeBella in Martin Luther King Elementary School in 1987 said I was going to be a fucking loser.
Makes you feel any better. My math teacher told me Helen Keller would have a better shot of winning an archery contest than I would have been in finance.
Oh my God, 100%.
But God, what great fuel. Honestly,
Yeah, like
pretty thankful.
Yeah, but then I was doing baseball card shows at 13, making $800, while the grown up to the left and right at my table were making $300 because it was a crappy show. And my mom picks me up at Sunday night to like pack up and drive me home. And I've got two 30, 40, 50-year-old men telling my mom, like, your son's a genius. Because I was doing all sorts of weird shit that nobody else was doing. And so, yeah, I mean, that was
Like what?
like the dollar rack. Like I was selling like 50, 60, 70 cent and $1.20, $1.30 cards that you can't move those cards. But because I merchandised them as a dollar rack with a huge sign, everybody just stopped by and bought cards. My friend Brandon Warnicki, who's still in my life, we met at 14, we did baseball card shows. He runs the wine library. I talk to him every day. He's one of the few humans on earth I talk to every day. I mean, he was baffled by the dollar rack. When I put it out, he was like, that's not gonna work. And then like 3 hours later, there's not a card left in the dollar rack. Merchandising matters.
Explain what that is to somebody who doesn't know what merchandising is.
How a human sees it on the other side. When you walk into, like, you know how like some of you like, it's very simple. It's like, think about, the best way to describe merchandising is to describe to everybody their home. Some of us, like me, are comfortable and slobbery. You know, crap on the floor, room doesn't smell. I mean, I was a fucking cliche dude, right? Like laundry on the ground, like room smells like shit, like things everywhere, like who gives a fuck? Like don't even do laundry, like where to sit in my teenage, oh my God, such a dude. Other people can't even fall asleep in their apartment, in their like room, unless the fucking scent is perfect, everything's perfect. Like, good. So like how something shows up for you. I get excited walking up to a garage sale where shit's all over the place. But let me take a different angle on it. So that's the setting. Now imagine like, why are you grabbing something when you buy? Like I always ask myself, after I do it, why did I just pick that up? It's on the end cap. It's at the register. That sign, the presentation. By the way, merchandising is the fashion industry. You know, like presentability, but like what compels someone to grab an item. That's always what I thought about. The sign, the positioning, the location within the store, the eyesight level. Do you understand that retailers like think like I think like a retailer, like what's at eye level is what sells. Bottom shelf doesn't sell. When I used to get mad at a supplier, if we didn't have like good negotiations or like they weren't supporting us, I took their most important products and put it on the bottom shelf. Merchandising, you know, I obsessed when I was 15. When I was 15, 16, I was allowed to go upstairs. Before that, I was downstairs in the warehouse. And when I was at the register bagging for the cashier, which is what I was doing, and then I became a cashier at 16, I could see how people walk, based on where my dad's registers were, I could see people walk in, and we were slow. We were still a local store at that point. I would watch every customer. They'd walk in, what do they grab, why? So it's presentation, how your table's laid out. How it's why I was good at UI and UX when the internet came along. All the designers in 97, 98, 99, 2000 were like, yo, you're really good at this. Because I thought like a consumer, like why would they click that button? What about below the fucking scroll? What about the checkout? I literally had, you know, empty cart or like lapse cart or whatever it was called, what the hell was it? Abandoned carts. I remember going to my developer in 2000 being like, can we see who didn't check out? It was like, you got to understand this is early internet.
Yeah, it didn't exist.
Like we didn't,
because you're thinking in the store, hey, that guy's walking out. Like, sir, did you not find something? That's what you would do,
exactly
right?
what I would do. So I was like, is there an internet? Wait a minute, there's an internet version of this. I'm like, Eric Kastner, big shout out to him. Eric, can you see in the code? Like, I didn't even know what to call it. The code, the server. We used such funny words back then. He's like, yeah, we started emailing people that had abandoned carts and fucking crushed. So like,
merchandising it's so funny because the other day this was 2 days ago, I went to the Harry Potter store here.
Nice. Yeah.
And the reason why, same thing you said, who's better at merchandising in the fucking world than the entertainment space? And I think arguably Harry Potter, probably one of the best of our lifetimes, right?
Yeah, it's a brand, one of the incredible IPs that we saw birthed.
Exactly. And when you walk into that store, it's always packed. And it is huge margin. It's incredibly well designed, and like they rotate merch, but what I've kind of noticed is they don't rotate it that much.
Yeah.
Like it's not like they always have to have some new.
Are you a huge Harry Potter fan?
I'm a big Harry Potter fan, but I'm not crazy about it.
You're not crazy, but you're very solid.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so watching that taught me a lot about, okay, well, if we're ever going to do merch, how do we do this right? How do I make every person who comes in, they have those little greeters, Sam Walton. I loved that. He was like looking to cut costs, but also put a greeter in front because he realized, it makes people feel different too. Like they're special for coming in the store.
To that point, I do that too. I don't like the middle. So I would say what I see with a greeter at Walmart is not playing in the middle. It's like price, convenience all the way here on the right, but then spend on things that others don't spend on because it changes the context of the relationship. I always talk about scale the unscalable. Actually, here's a tidbit. I believe one of the great misses right now for all of the characters like you and I and everybody else that's aspiring to like win on content and brand is community management. I really do believe that way more people need to DM everyone back. If you and I do not have that bandwidth. But I'm telling you right now, if you're just kind of getting into your early stages and you have like 10,000 followers and you're posting and you're getting 14 comments, you're getting 13 DMs a day, reply to all of them. Scale the unscalable. That's how I built Gary Vee, by the way. Content and replying to everyone on Twitter from 2007 to 2011.
You kind of still do it on scale because I remember when I came and spoke at Beacon. I came and spoke. That's normal. I'll go speak at people's events. It's an amazing event. I had a great time. Very seldom does the head of the entire event ask to get my phone number and text me direct. That's really actually not that scary. I mean, how many speakers did you have there? Hundreds.
Yeah.
Not to mention that's not your only event. Not to mention you're doing these all over the world. That's actually not even that scalable for you.
Yep.
And so it seems like there's different levels to the game, but you still do the unscalable even at the highest level of the game.
I think the dirt and the clouds are the only interesting parts of the game.
That's good.
Yeah, and so even in my own organization, people ask me how I scale Vayner, and I say 10, 80, 10, and they're like, what does that mean? I go, when we're doing important shit, I tell the team I have to be involved in the first 10% because I'm molding it. Then I disappear, and then you need to come back to me to close it. I open and close. The middle's the problem, and winners and people aspiring to build big things spend way too much time in the middle. Meetings. I've famously internally and a little bit externally obsessed with 15-minute meetings. I had an epiphany. I was like, fuck, I crushed the dirt, the 15-minute meeting. I'm fucking up the clouds. I have a lot of 1-hour meetings that are actually 3-hour meetings. I've done more offsites, 2-3 day offsites this year. We're not even halfway through than I've done in the last 10. And it's been monumental. I had this epiphany in November, December of last year. I'm like, wait a minute, I've got the 15-minute meeting down. But this is about like feeling your feelings. I could feel that a lot of important meetings that were an hour weren't getting wrapped up. So now I'm doing a lot more 2- and 3-hour meetings and even 2- and 3 day offsites, 10, 80, 10.
That's a great framework because otherwise it does seem too much and you can get stuck in micromanagement forever. You're like, I'm trying to build a business. Gary and Codie, you said do that. And I need to have my hands on everything and I need to care about the dirt, but you can't all the time.
Oh my God, I would argue for your audience, like the SMB audience, like the mainstream audience, the number one reason they lose is they spend all their time in the 80. That's why my dad didn't go as big as he could. He wanted to know everything. He wanted to touch everything. Many small business entrepreneurs are just trying to be solopreneurs. They don't realize it. They're scared of stealing, insecurity, someone getting better at it and leaving. There's all these millions of different things that people are worried about. 10-80-10.
What do you think that young entrepreneurs are sleeping on right now?
So many different things. You know, when you know this, we've had the luxury of living just a little bit. We're still pretty young in the scheme of things, but like, you know, I had so many, you know, when I talk about my career, my life, I always think it's a homage to my parents and my circumstance. And so I had a lot of things figured out at 23, right? My mom really actually built self-esteem. You know, I continue to believe that most people get successful because of insecurity, and there's a rare breed that gets there through confidence. And I'm so grateful that I'm in that small group, and I see it in others. But that's not me. That's how I was raised, and just the circumstance of being born in the Soviet Union and Jersey boy in the 80s and a million other things that are not me. I think a lot about the youth, to your point, and there's just a lot. I think, first of all, both men and women, I think we throw it on men, but I see it in a lot of young women. We want to get validation from the masses. It was always a vulnerability pre-social media, pre-internet, to want validation from the outside. But the outside in 1974 and 1983 was the Joneses, AKA your neighbors. That was like the, you know, like maybe your church, maybe your like neighbor, like it was tight. Maybe the people in the office, it was small. You know, there's an extraordinary amount of wanting to show that you're successful going on. So I think one thing that a lot of the youth is struggling with is an extreme need for the Lambos, the watches, the followers, the cash, the trophies, the accolade, just so much outside validation. I think there's a lot of lack of self-awareness. I think that in general, that's a human thing, but meaning I think a lot of people chase the trend, you know, whether it's, you know, cannabis or NFTs or crypto or flipping or you know, and listen, I'm curious about a lot of trends, but I think a lot of people are like, I'm gonna do this because this is where I can make my millions. You know, so I think, I believe that one of the great ways to actually be successful is to truly know the things you like because you'll work that hard. Like, I don't think I could ever work as hard as I did if I didn't enjoy it. I couldn't muster it up. It's why I don't, you know, back we were talking right before we started the gym, this morning was a grind. Yeah, like to me it was like, I really didn't want to, I really don't want to. And my gym, my eating discipline, my doing things around the house, these are fully procrastinations. These are laziness. This is avoidism. This is non-accountability. This is like, look, a bird over there, run away. Like, I do the reverse and work because it's my love. I do the reverse in playing basketball. I like it. I'm like, should definitely not be playing. I like it. I go out of my way. I was just saying to you, my back was hurting all week and I played last night. That was like crazy. So I think if you love what you do, you will do the things that actually are required to be successful, which is persevere through the daily shit, right?
It's hard to beat.
So I think those two things really stand out to me. And then the things, you know, like I always laugh when I'm about to say it because I know some people are like, Gary, but like I do struggle with an obsession to try to teach these kids about patience. You know, I literally punted my 20s and early 30s because I was obsessed with building a business for my parents. But I truly had nothing at 34, truly actually. Like when I started VaynerMedia, my biggest company, we started it in a conference room the size of this podcast studio in another company's conference room because I couldn't pay rent.
How big is it now?
Now it's 2,000 plus people, 350 million a year revenue, not valuation. You know,
oh, you run a profitable business that actually makes money? Shocking.
So, you know, it's a big business, and
that's only one of yours. Like how many? I was looking it up today. It's like Vayner 3, Vayner Sports, Vayner RSC, VFriends, which I think is a different entity. How many like Vayners you got?
There's VaynerX, the holding company that holds like 7 or 8 of the that's the marketing agency holding company.
Okay.
Outside of it is Vayner Sports, because that's a separate business. That's me and my brother. My brother runs that with Greg Gensky. That's becoming a pretty big business. We rep over 100 athletes, might even be close to 200 now. A newer one is Vayner Watt, W-A-T-T, for Eric Wattenberg. That's a TV production company. Our first shows are going to start hitting the air here in the fall, and like that's starting to move and groove. VeeFriends is the other biggest business I run. That's my Marvel Pokemon. It's an intellectual property. I do actually believe in my 80s, that's what I will be known for more than anything else I've done.
And probably nobody understands that right now, right? Like when you launch it, they thought, this quick little NFT thing.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't understand me and Vayner. Most people don't know VaynerX. Most people, when they just heard 350 million, like when people come to Vayner, they're like they're like, what is this? I'm like, this is my company. They're like, most people think I'm a motivational speaker or a content creator, which is fine. I mean, I'm not overly worried about it. VCR group, I have a very substantial restaurant group that's going very well. We have that Fly Fish Club, which was also an NFT membership.
It's just there.
Yeah, it's really going well.
It was beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crushing, which is good because that was very high risk, high reward. You open up that kind of 8-figure build out, and the restaurant business is not nice. It's the hits business. Yeah, you should hate them. It's restaurants and sports agencies, bad businesses. Yeah. Passion though. Chef Capon, Chef Connor, David Rodolitz, my 3 partners in that business, this is their life. My brother punted a lot of money because he just wants to be a sports agent. You know, and now he's starting after a 10-year itch of like, hey, what else should, so I think it ebbs and flows. So anyway, long-winded, I wish kids were like, no, I really love sailing. Let me start a business around sailing, whether it's content creation. Let me go work for someone who's in the sailing business for 5 years, learn and figure it out. Like that move, like when people hear me say this, they're like, but Gary, how do I do that? I'm like, why don't you go work for somebody in comedy, in the fashion, like everyone has just decided like I can start a business, and most people are not talented enough in their teens or 20s to build a viable business just yet.
Yeah.
The thing
is miserable.
Well, yeah, this. Most people, this was a real wake-up call for me when entrepreneurship got cool in like the mid-2010s, like 2010, 11, 12, 13. Everyone started running towards it. And I had always been there. I didn't realize how hard it was for people that weren't natural born. But then it made sense to me because I was a really poor student. And like, I just think some people know how to do school. I wasn't one of those people. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be hard for these people. Because, it's because unlike school, like I never did homework and failed every test, and the system pushed me through. My school system didn't want people to stay back. They were going for a blue ribbon. They just pushed me through. I literally sit here today, no fucking bullshit. In my 4 years of high school, I never opened a book, never did homework, never studied for a test, never did a book report, never did a project, and they just pushed me through. Yeah.
Which I'm not sure that's good or bad, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably neither, but in business, entrepreneurship, the land of business merit, there's no pushing through. Like, if I did that same thing in business, I'd be out of business very quickly and back at a job. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I saw this stat today, actually. It was on Twitter. And it was, because you always talk about how hard it is.
Yeah.
And so there was this tweet today that was like, read this if you're not as rich as you want. And it was the odds of making it, that in the US, 1 in 1,000 make over $1 million in a year. 1 in 11,000 over 10 million, 1 in 35,000 over 20 million. And so the truth is, if you want to make it, you need to be an absolute freak of nature, basically. You have to have outlier behavior. And I was curious what you think and how hard it actually is, because you're oftentimes telling all of us it's going to be harder than you think.
I'm 49. When the number went from, when I was a kid, the number was if I could make 100,000 a year. I grew up in lower middle class kind of like vibes, more lower middle class. 100K seemed I myself, with, I'm 15 years old, I'm going to buy the Jets one day. But there was another part of my brain that was like, man, the only time I was pumped professionally, financially, was when I broke the 100,000 barrier in a year. No other time. When that number for the masses became 1 million versus 100,000, shit got ugly. Like, just like, do you know how fucking hard it is to make $1 million a year? Like, really, actually? And the problem for someone like you and I, if we've gotten there and we spend all our time around people that have gotten there, it doesn't feel rare. One of the great things that has always happened in my career is again, because of where I grew up, I always thought about the other so one of the first offices I opened for VaynerMedia was Chattanooga, Tennessee. Not LA, not San Francisco, not Tokyo, not London. And one of the reasons I did that was I always wanted to be grounded to everything. Up, down, left, right. When you go to Chattanooga, Tennessee, if you make $1 million a year, you're fucking on a pedestal. And by the way, Chattanooga has a wealthy area, old Coke money. There's some great entrepreneurs there.
And it's nice.
Yeah, it is
clean.
Nice. I like Chattanooga. But look, I think that it's incredibly hard, and I don't know why people think it's easy. And I do know why I think people think it's easy. In the 80s, there was Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous. In the 90s, there was like, My Crib, the Crib show on MTV Cribs. Now 24/7, people are looking at propaganda in their feeds of watches and vacations. And I say, because I keep hearing everyone wanting to blame Instagram and wanting to blame social media, I say, stop consuming it. Like, if you're motivated by it, great. I don't believe that most people are motivated by it. I think most people get jealous and envious, get insecure, and so, yeah, I think it's super hard because, again, over-coddling parenthood the last 40 years, school is bullshit system, government's bullshit system, most systems are bullshit. The only two systems that aren't, like the most not bullshit system in the world is sports. When little Ricky goes on the field and he's 9, if he sucks at basketball or soccer, like it's exposed, no matter how much daddy and mommy want to make up some excuses or, right?
Used to be.
Yeah, I mean, parents are really getting their hands in shit, but still, they'll go and fight a teacher. Like parents in the 80s didn't, when you got a C, your mom and dad didn't go to school and fight a teacher and try to get a B. They do that now. But even though I'm in this circles, I have a 16 now, and 12-year-old, like growing up in this last 7 to 10 years, parents want to go on the field and kick the ball for their kid. People want to go do something, but they can't. And then thus the kid gets exposed. Sports is the most merit. The next closest is business. The reason I say it's not the same is, you know this, people are like, I'm a 3-time exiting founder. I'm like, you raised $10 million and sold it for $200,000. Exactly. You're a fucking loser. You're not, yeah. You know what I mean? So people can bullshit a little bit in business. There's, there is but it's 80% to sports. And I guess in hindsight, I was attracted to merit my whole life because those are my two passions.
I love a game where you know who wins and loses because it tells you if you're good or not.
That's right.
So do you think, like, when you see that stuff online, I'm not a big showy person, don't get me wrong, and I like nice shit. Like,
yeah, you're allowed. By the way, everyone's allowed.
Totally, but I think it's almost an immediate red flag when I see somebody showing the Gucci, Fendi, Prada, the fast cars, and the private planes. I immediately go, I don't know. If you really had that, you got to flex it. What do you think? Like, if you're talking to a young person, you're saying, don't fucking follow people that do that.
Yeah, listen, I've taken some lumps from a lot of contemporaries who get mad that I talk about this because so many of them are in it. Look, I think that first of all, it's so funny where my chemicals just went. One of the great things, and it's funny because I pontificate and share and ponder online 24/7. First of all, just to set the ground rules, I do not have the audacity to think that I'm right about anything, let alone everything. For me, I'm in your camp a little bit, but it's because I think a lot of people do that to funnel people into them, to monetize them. So I think about that a lot. And again, I think it's doing real damage like when I post every morning, every evening, I genuinely post deeply from the lens of why would someone give a fuck about this post? Why is this good for them? And I do believe a lot of people on the other side of this podcast are not growing because almost every post is about what's in it for me. I want people to buy my course, my book, my collectible, and so I believe that the flashy stuff is inherently selfish, not selfless. And so, but look, I mean, people are allowed, like, you know, people are allowed to share. Like, I get it. Again, a lot of people grew up insecure and wanted these things, and they're proud and they want to share it. My big thing is that people that have over-indexed on that move, I have found over the last 20 years, tend to struggle to stay on top, tend to be less happy. So it's not only that the audience that's consuming the Lambo or the watch that I'm worried about, but I'm even worried about the person that's sharing it. I'm worried that they won't be able to sustain it.
It's a great, great move. I want to talk to you a little bit about building big companies. You've built a ton. And so with your current knowledge today, I'm curious, like, let's say you had to go back to your wine days almost. Let's say you owned a laundromat, because I'm into those things.
Yes.
So let's say you owned one laundromat and you had to start your entire empire from one laundromat today. Like, what would you do? What would be the playbook?
Content. Yeah, you know, because, you know, you and I are part of a breed that admires a single laundromat owner. And I think you have really done a good job of tapping into something that I think is black and white, which, you know, we talked about the last time we hung, like this whole, whether you call it micro P or just practical business, obviously Main Street is the way you think about it. I think there's a huge opportunity for a lot of those people to build a brand. In fact, that's what I did. I built my brand. I am that person. I didn't even own the business. It was my dad's business. I was the person who built it, but my original content as Gary Vee, after 5 years or during the 5 years of doing the wine show, my original first ever thoughts about business and life and perspectives were literally out of a liquor store, one store, and I built my brand. I could have easily, if that's what I wanted, opened up 10 more stores, did micro M&A, and I would have built a very substantial franchise or independently owned multi-unit business, which would be worth a lot of money. And in today's environment would be a very attractive PE acquisition, as every small business is going to get consolidated, it feels like these days. So I really, the number one thing I would do is get into content for two reasons. One, if you're capable, building your personal brand, I do believe is a moat. I've always believed that it was the moat. I've talked about it for 15 years that it's the moat. It is the one true asset that doesn't get commoditized, even in an AI world. You still have your IP, it's your copyright, it's you. Two, if you learn to be a content creator, the other thing that worked with me, and this was hand in hand, and this is what I want for this person, is you start getting good at running ads and doing content for your business too. So in my brain, what I'm dreaming up right now is Sally's building up her. She's like, I did this. This is how I bootstrapped it, or how I inherited it, or whatever's real. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my day-to-day troubles. Here's how I think about it. Oh my God, coins, when people stopped having change on them, we had to put in these, swipe your credit card or just like the battle stories of that business. But also what she will learn in the story that I'm telling is she'll learn what really and by the way, I know a lot of small businesses listen, so let me give it to you very straight. Disproportionately, the biggest opportunity to grow your business, traffic to your business, average receipt size, is to run, if you're a local business that people come to, is to run 10-mile radius Facebook ads. And so Sally, in this journey of building up Sally, the laundromat entrepreneur, would also start to learn how to be good at these things, which she would then be able to use to run ads to her business, which is advertising matters. It's always mattered, and it will always matter. And so content.
You know what's so interesting too? In your story, I remember looking back at those old videos of you in your wine business, and today everybody wants to have a set, right? We're on a borrowed set. This one isn't mine, but they want to have this fancy set. But you know what the sickest set is today? You're actually a laundromat.
I think so.
Because it's show, don't tell. It's like, no, I own this. I'm not, there's no fluorescent lights here. Watch me do this. You don't think I own it? Look, I'm right here.
I believe the best studio in the world is the world. I tell my clients, which are mainly Fortune 500 companies, I'm like, look, let's make content at stores, in parking lots, at festivals. I genuinely believe that. I've always believed that. I was honestly the Pied Piper in 2009, 10, 11, 12 of no production value. Wine Library TV didn't even have a mic. No lighting, no mic. Literally whatever the camera picked up. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think that store as studio is a big idea.
It's a good framework.
Yeah, I think so. Store as studio is something that I've really championed more privately than publicly. So I'm glad we're getting to pontificate about this. And I think that's right.
Yeah, and it means you don't have to have a bunch of money, because I'm all about the great equalizer. Like yesterday, my husband and I were kind of laughing in New York, because New York's such an equalizer city in some ways,
In the
which is
best
like,
way.
yeah. So I could drive like a fancy black car, which sometimes I do, and guess what? If you hoof it or if you subway it, you're faster than me. And so like that's a cool equalizer that doesn't exist in a lot of other places. And so I think this is a good example for content. Like the best performing ads for a lot of our businesses are exactly what you said. It's
100%.
like, it's a window cleaner cleaning a window and then it reveals a price. Like that's it. There's no production. And so
Production often, again, is disguising insecurity. A lot of people talk about production. If you listen carefully, it's just an excuse to not do. Anyone who says, I can't afford it, is full of shit. It's called an iPhone. You all have one. The end. Nothing else. Zero. I did it for fucking half a decade. A $239 camera from Best Buy was the only thing I used. Nothing else. Nothing.
such a good point. You know, another thing that I really like about you is you kind of said it earlier. You're like, I've taken some punches on the internet. And you had this tweet that I was coming back on, which is, first they'll call you stupid, then they'll call you lucky. Remember, just make sure that you're always executing and they are spending their time calling you things. And I loved that line. How do you deal with haters?
Easily. With compassion, with empathy. You know, I couldn't comprehend living a life where I spend time trying to tear someone down.
Ever? You weren't ever
Even
like that?
I was just about to say, you know, we're starting to get to know each other. I think it's one thing in these settings. I think the thing you would find interesting, and this is going to make sense to you because I'm assuming circles and things you've run in as you've built your career. The thing that blew me away growing up in the game was that A players in private settings would spend a lot of time shitting on other A players. It blew my mind. I remember it was happening to me when Scooter Braun, Maverick Carter, some of these people in business were starting to do really well. And I'd be at these things. I knew both of them well, so it's probably why it triggered for me. When people would be jealous or envious and they themselves, sometimes more successful. I was like, this is weird. This is interesting. Let me take note of this. Oh, insecurity. Oh, like, you know, wow, they don't realize that the world is like, I was fascinated. And I understand it because the one place I'm not me is sports fandom. And my level of envy and jealousy of Michael Jordan and Tom Brady and Bulls fans in that era and Patriot fans is like anger, like almost like the most extreme Republican or Democrat feeling about the other side. So I can tap into the emotion that is jealousy and envy. And, you know, because I don't feel in control as a fan. But as a real life human, I feel fully in control. And I couldn't comprehend the idea of deploying jealousy or envy against someone else. So how do I deal with haters? Compassion. I mean, they're just not in a good place. Like, there's no other way to say it. Like, could you comprehend spending your time tearing down? And so many people do it. And you're like, I just couldn't, why would I deploy that energy? You know, if I believe something stinks or someone stinks, my immediate reaction is to just walk away in perpetuity. I want to save my energy and time. I got shit to do. I'm trying to win out here. I remember that tweet. I remember that era when I was thinking about it. I always wanted to be an athlete, but it wasn't in the cards. Being a publicly known businessman with, you know, opinions left, right, up, down, I'm like, oh shit, I got to taste it. Like, you know, everyone, it's like, you know, it's like hot takes, you know? And so, and I think about it being an athlete, which is, if you're an athlete, you know, just got done with this great Knicks playoff run, but it ended, unfortunately, just a hair too short. But when you're on the court and they're booing you, if you actually take that in, it's very hard to perform. If you take it in and you get excited, that's how I take it. Like, it's the way I deal with it is 90% indifference and compassion. Like, I'm like, who gives a fuck, comma, man, just wish Ricky Pants 49 lived a life where he didn't have to like be mad at me because I know I'm triggering insecurities for him. And 10% of like, gangster, I'm gonna slice your throat. Like, all right, motherfucker, keep talking. Like, oh, really? Like, you think I've made it now? Let me build Disney in front of your face with V-Friends and you're really gonna fucking be angry at 80. So there's a little bit of that. But only 10%, which is I'm like very grateful for, maybe 20%.
Depends on the day.
I like being competitive. I enjoy being competitive. In fact, one of my great angers in the world is 8th place trophies. One of my great angers in the world is when 2 passive parents get lucky enough to birth a competitive kid, probably took after grandma, and then they tell that kid like this game that they're crying about doesn't matter. It only matters. Winning and losing is incredibly imperative to the human race. Nothing is good out of balance. Of course, when people are like, Gary, winning and losing, like, is it okay to like hurt people to win? No, it's not okay. But is it okay to completely eliminate merit and competitiveness and winning and losing? No. That leads to, let me say it slow, suicide. This is what people don't understand. When you start to not care about anything, you get into a very dark place. Teaching a young kid nothing matters is a dangerous game. Or sports don't matter, but getting A's matter. You start teaching them fake shit.
Yeah, I think also going back and realizing that nihilism is real. And, some of the greats have talked about the fact that the most horrible thing you can do to an individual is to take away passion in some way, shape, or form.
It's black and white to me.
Yeah.
It's, as someone who's like fueled by it, I can, like we're animals. Like I can smell it when someone has it, and I can smell it, only 2 versions I can smell. I can't smell the middle.
Interesting.
But with passion, I can smell the 2 opposites. I can smell when someone's got it.
Yeah.
Which is why I've associated, invested, and been around a lot of people who went on to become enormous. And I can smell when someone doesn't have it at all, which is why I fucking wake up every morning putting out content to get them out of their darkness.
So we've told them that content matters.
Yes.
We've told them that if you're running a small business, you should think about building up your brand. We've talked a little bit about IP, like all of this talks about content. But one of the biggest questions I get asked by business owners in our portfolio is, how do you find great talent? How do you find the person to help you with social media?
By realizing you need to be the person that first understands it a little bit. How do you judge something you don't know? If I went into a surgery right now, heart surgery, and I needed to judge what's going on, we have a problem. It's called I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Everybody who's listening, when you own a business, it is hard. When you own a business, you have to be adaptable. When you own a business, you have to deal with the shit. I know that you don't like it. You may even have an ideological disagreement with social media. You must be the person that learns it a little bit so that you can judge the talent. It's not about finding the talent. It's that everybody gave the job to their 20-year-old niece because they thought like, oh, you're a kid, you get it. The problem is the 20-year-old niece and nephew use social media to fucking hook up, not to build a big business.
Yep.
So, my answer, and I talk to a lot of these businesses as well, is you have to spend 50 to 100 hours educating yourself and then doing. You can't read about push-ups to get the results. You have to read and watch videos and listen. I even made it easier for you. GaryVee.com/attention. I literally took my last book, which is $20 fucking. I'm like, you can't afford $20? How about this? A 44-page free deck to tell you exactly what to do.
Good. But I recommend the book.
Thank you.
I gave day trading attention to all of my social team.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, again, you said thank you, but I said no, thank you, because it's actually super.
It's why I believe in books. I'm like, I cannot believe I charge hundreds of thousands of dollars to clients for consulting, and this $20 fucking book is like pretty much there.
Yeah, 100. Well, and to be fair, why wouldn't I steal your 27 years doing this?
And more importantly, my actual living the thesis of the book. It's not my only 30 years of working, it's my last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, that was different.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what's so interesting about the books I write. I don't write evergreen books. Day trading attention is just a follow up to jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just 10 years later because shit changed. All I want to do, I'm incredibly obsessed with the contemporary. I want to be obsessed with the history to understand the contemporary, and then I just want to be of today.
Yeah, there was this great line, actually, when I was coming up with a bio on you that I was reading to Kate that is, I think, perfect for you. And it was about the fact that you are pathologically practical about where eyeballs were moving. Like, that is so true. You're pathological. Like, you are obsessed. And I think that's what it takes to win. I guess I want to close out with two questions here.
Please.
One of them is, you've mastered these underpriced attention platforms at varying times. You talk about it in all of your books. At any given time, there's an underpriced platform. So let's give the people the non-evergreen. What is that today? Where is the underpriced attention today?
Live social shopping. If you sell anything, and this is huge for your crew, if you sell anything, that's not a physical thing, not a service. VaynerMedia doesn't do this. I can't do this with VaynerMedia. We don't sell a physical thing. If you sell a physical thing, which a lot of you do, every one of you has to learn everything you can about TikTok Shop and whatnot. WHAT, NOT. Those are the two leaders right now. I expect Meta, Google, Twitter, everybody to get into this game. Live social shopping is the underpriced attention. There are a ton of creators right now who will never get millions of followers and make millions of dollars, but if they switch to being someone that sells something on social instead of making lifestyle content, they will make millions of dollars.
So smart.
I forced Mike to do a garage sale. Mike did a garage sale on whatnot this Saturday and made $700. Yeah. Now I know you sold some trading cards and stuff like that, but you also, because I heard you were going to do just trading cards. I'm like, no. I need you to sell some random shit in the house. Give me one example of something that was literally sitting collecting dust in your apartment and you sold for how much?
A box of Legos.
Right.
Do we include shipping and handling?
Yeah, you charge I love this. Perfect. Every time I do garage sales and everything, everyone's like, what about the shipping? I'm like, you charge shipping. What about the eBay fee? I'm like, everything has a cost. People love an excuse, right? People look for the why not.
Yep.
I literally think garage sales and flea markets are going to happen in live social shopping. It's not just someone who starts a beauty brand
or like those storage units. Kate, we're doing your storage unit. She has one here that she's had for 2 years.
Right. She's paying monthly fee.
She's paying $25 a month. Yep. We should just do it live on YouTube.
Not YouTube, because they don't have that yet.
Well, so I want to turn it into a YouTube video, but do it live on Whatnot or TikTok Shop.
You can make a YouTube video because that's great, because that's content. But live, the QVC-ification of social media is here.
Yeah.
Listen to these stats. 30%. This is a stat. I'm always a little weird with stats, but this is real. China is fully here. China's got obviously one of the biggest economies in the world. Live social shopping in China now, by the most conservative estimates, represents 30% of all e-commerce in China.
Get the fuck out.
A $500 billion economy of live shopping in China that is bigger than almost every nation's economy. In the US, I just had the CEO of QVC. He put out this stat that I'm going to try to validate this week, but it feels right-ish. He's like, we're already at 6% on live shopping in the US, and no one's even seeing it yet.
What's that? Do we know what that is compared to what QVC used to be? Because it was like a lot, then nothing, then now growing.
QVC has always been a ton.
Okay.
And it's not a lot. Yeah. It was still doing an ungodly amount of business. There's something about the behavior. You're almost like paying for the entertainment. You're like tipping the host. You're like part of the community. I have this concept called commerce-tainment. So ready? How about this? You're a hairdresser right now listening, and you sell shampoos and other shit, soaps and all the fucking shit in your place, right? You can go live on Whatnot right now. At the bottom of the screen is like this $12 shampoo, and you could just buy it while you're teaching people how to use the shampoo on a customer. This is real. Tea with Gary Vee, which I really did really well during COVID. I've brought back. I love doing Q&A. On Tea with Gary Vee, I now do it on Whatnot, not on Instagram Live. I do it on all my socials, but I drive to whatnot. I drink out of a VFriends mug, and the mug is pinned at the bottom of the screen. And while I'm doing the show, people are buying the mug.
Get out.
Commerce-tainment. I'm not even selling in that format.
It's just subliminal right there.
Yeah, or I'll make a reference. I'm like, hey, you like my mug? You get like it's a mini commercial. It's not even a commercial.
Interesting.
So
and you just like experimenting. Like that's part of your thing. You just never stop experimenting.
Yes, after it's been validated.
Okay.
I have $1 trillion stuff sells in China. Now we have those functionalities. It's going to happen here. It's happening here. TikTok Shop is insane. You, for your portfolio, must deeply understand TikTok Shop. So live social shopping is one of them.
Okay.
Within social, I'm a big fan for people that are obsessed with TikTok on Snapchat Spotlight. So Snapchat Spotlight is much smaller, but it's their TikTok, right? It's in their UI, and there's a fuckload of 15 to 30-year-olds in it. But here's the good part, supply and demand of attention. Like I talked about in day trading, there's a lot of kids on it. They spend a lot less time on it than they do on TikTok. When I say kids, I say 15 to 30. So if you sell to 15 to 30, but the supply's low. Nobody's posting on there. So I'm very hot on Snapchat Spotlight. Substack, I think is really, really interesting. I'm about to delve in. IRL streaming, so Twitch.
You got to check out Beehive. I'm an investor in it, so
I know
obviously
Beehive.
very biased.
I will absolutely do
but
that.
those guys, and they're here. I've never met faster builders. We invest in a lot of companies, and shout out Tyler Denk. He's an absolute psychopath. He's like what you talked about.
Speed.
Dude,
It's like
I think
sports.
he's going to eat Snapchat's, Substack's lunch.
I love
but
it.
We'll
Good
see.
for them. Yeah. Look, and it's not even, you know this, you're too smart for this. I don't think Beehive's going to eat Substack's lunch. I think it's an and, not an or.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's it's too big of a addressable market.
Yeah, very
it's
true.
Uber Lyft.
That's true.
Like when I was like, oh, Lyft, because I was an early investor in Uber, I was like, oh fuck, Lyft's going to do well. Yeah. But I wasn't
And
like,
you want multiple to do well.
yeah, I mean, look, like when you're on it, like I don't want the Patriots, Bills, and Dolphins to do well. Like I don't mind competition. I just know it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you have a few, then you grow the market share entirely,
Yeah,
which
but
usually
both of those companies are going into a trend that's happened.
Yeah.
Like Medium I was an investor in Medium, which was Eb Williams, you know, who's an iconic entrepreneur, co-founder of Twitter, and before that Odeo, and Blogger before that, and one of the first, you know, blogging platforms, like subscription, Patreon, OnlyFans, like, and then the social sites are going to start. You can already see some of the moves they're doing, like, fuck all these other places. We've got all the audience. We're going to monetize. So there's a lot to it, but these are things I'm looking at every day.
Let's end on AI.
AI.
So what are your craziest predictions when it comes to AI?
Well, I've gone pretty viral lately because my craziest prediction is that most people's grandchildren will marry an AI robot.
Fuck my life.
Some of them will. Not everyone's going to, but I think this is the biggest thing we've seen since the internet. It's that big. When the internet came along, my thesis when I was a kid was, oh, this is like I bet my life on it. And the bet was, this is the biggest transformation ever. And like everybody will be on the internet. And when I tell you, when I said that in 95, 6 or 7, people laughed. When people are like, when they talk about AI, I don't think they realize it's oxygen. Like when I get excited about the blockchain, NFTs, Bitcoin, that is a big deal. When I get excited about social media, that was a very big deal. Email, Google search, these are big deals. This is a level above. This is internet and AI. Meaning I view AI as almost boring to talk about because is it fun to talk about the internet as a foundation? Like, no, we talk about the things on top of it. To me, AI is now like omnipresent. It's a reality of life. And there's a real decade of recalibration, reckoning, disruption, opportunity. I'm baffled at anyone who's not spending an hour a day learning about AI and using AI. I couldn't imagine. And I spend a lot of time prompt engineering, you know, just if you don't know what that means, Google it or AI it. And that's what's so funny. Like even Googling it, I noticed I said to somebody the other day, I'm like, AI it. Like go Gemini it, go Perplexity, go Gronk it, go OpenAI, you know, ChatGPT it. Like, it's huge. And it's like the wildest predictions are the Internet of Things, it thinking for you, it ordering. Like I think all of shopping will be done by agents for you based on your behaviors. Like it will know better that you wanted that outfit than you knew.
Facebook already knows me better than my husband with my shopping
That,
preferences.
most things know things better than husbands know. But we're a bunch of idiots. I think that it is very clear to me that we are going into a transformative half century where AI will be like the piping of this reality. Piping, railroads, infrastructure, oxygen, whatever you want to call it. This is the biggest thing that's happened in a long time.
Let's give people a couple things to do on that. Somebody's listening, they're like, all right, fuck it. Gary told me to do AI. What does do AI daily in order to get better at it look like?
Inside of Twitter X, using Gronk, Perplexity, or Google Gemini, or probably the one that ChatGPT is so strong and so easy and common for people. Download it and use it every day. Like, and then use it to, here's how I use AI. Hey, AI, hey, this is what I do actually almost every week. What are the 5 AI apps that popped in the last week that I should pay attention to? AI is answering that question for me so that I can go look at those apps and understand what's happening. Also, real quick, because I know a lot of smart investors listening here, be very careful in investing in AI. The reason I haven't yet is every week you think you just invested in the best X, and a week later somebody crushes that. The speed, you want to talk about speed? The speed in which like these apps are getting updated and better is profound.
It is the first time that I am annoyingly an evangelist for tech that is not something I've invested in or own. Like I won't shut up about, I'm like whisper flow, fuck the keyboard, the keyboard's gone. You just,
gone.
Yeah, you just voice text and it's perfect from now on. I mean, that's wild.
What about the fact that nobody has to learn a language anymore? Oh. Everyone's gonna have ear pods that like you're gonna talk to somebody, they're gonna be speaking Spanish and you'll hear it as English, and you're gonna speak English and they'll hear it as Spanish and Portuguese and Korean. Like there's profound things coming. But the wildest one is we're gonna fall in love with these, AIs, and then we're gonna put that in love AI into robot bodies, and those robot bodies are gonna go from looking like RoboCop to looking like, Megan Fox.
Sydney Sweeney.
And, that Megan Fox movie is a preview. Yeah.
Does that make you sad?
No, it doesn't.
Happy?
No. It makes me understand that this is how it's always been. Like cavemen were different than you and I were. Supposedly we were apes, right? So like, does it make our apes mad that we like shit changes? Like I'm not like, people are always like, Gary, that's gross. Or like, you need Jesus. Or I'm like, look, I'm not advocating for it.
Yeah, you're just predicting.
Like, in fact, I'm like advocating for simplicity. I think I'm sad for people that wear gold chains and fucking like take pictures in private planes. So like, I love when people are like, this is sad. I'm like, you're sad. Like this is what's brewing. This is what could happen. You're asking for a prediction. I'm guessing, but it fucking feels like it's coming.
I think you're right. I do think it's a little sad, but that is every generation.
But by the way, I go back to this. We're in charge. Like if you think it's sad as a human one day, like you can parent and grandparent your kid into like understanding the value of a human versus a robot. Right? The problem is that we have to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. The reason the robots are trending, in my opinion, long term, is we want everything perfect.
It's exactly why.
Yeah. But by the way, are we robots? Like, let me explain. Ozempic, vanity, hair extensions, boob jobs, fucking testosterone, HGH, makeup, people can argue we're sad. We become very, very, very visual. Like 40, 50-year-old men and women, like you and I, 2 generations ago, do not look like the way we look. And those people can say we're sad. Why do we have to alter ourselves? What's plastic surgery? What's Botox?
Gary's gonna be like this in 10 years, maybe?
I'm probably not, but I don't judge people that are. I just judge when they say something sad when they're doing the sad thing. I remember in the 80s when like I was a kid, but I remember when everybody frowned on someone who had a boob job.
And now they're everywhere.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
And so like, I don't know, is lip filler like sad to a woman from 1949? It sure is. They think you're fucking sad.
Zoom out, huh?
So just because you think a robot's sad, like it's just gonna keep doing shit. And I get what people are gonna say in the comments, like, yeah, but that's still a human being. I'm like, okay, like, I don't know, like, okay.
I hired an AI specialist who's so amazing. You walk into my office. The first time I meet the guy in person, because we were interviewing him on a project basis. Anyway, he's sitting in the front area of my office. He's got a hoodie on. He's got those, what are those things called?
VR glasses.
VR glasses. And he's just fucking maestroing in front. And I, taking a little video because it's funny. His name's Chadwick. He's brilliant. And his entire job is to see where AI can play in our companies. But I started talking to him about this idea, and he pushed me really hard on are humans robots? He goes, should they be able to vote? Immediate reaction, fuck no, they shouldn't be able to vote. He goes, okay, what about a human with a fake leg? What about a human with 2 robotic legs? What about a human with a neuro transplant in their head? Where does it become a human instead of a robot? And I was like, woof.
Yeah, and by the way, it might not even be right. Like, meaning like it could be the end of the human race. And I'm like, okay. Like, do you think I want that? But my intuition is that my grandkids will be gone by the time that happens. And like, you don't get to control the future. Like, what is this audacious? This is where the whole politics thing has gotten me crazy. Like, we've gotten to this era where people have the audacity to think the world should be how they see it. I have passionate points of view. We just spent fucking an hour on it. I don't think I'm right, and I don't think it should be the way I see it. Like, and most of all, you can't stop it. Right. Technology is undefeated. By the way, as I sign off, electricity demonized when it came out. Actually, the word demonized. When electricity was invented, people did not put it in their home and still chose lanterns and candles because the word on the street was electricity had demons in it. We're scared of new shit.
Gary V, you're the man. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
You guys, this was wild. I was just looking, and it looks like more than 50% of you are not subscribed to the Big Deal podcast. When you subscribe, first of all, it means we get to bring you bigger and better guests. It's also the #1 way you can support this podcast. If you liked it today, subscribe on whatever channel that you're listening to. And I want to tell you something firsthand. You become whatever you allow into your attention span. And what I hope you feel from us every single day is that I value your attention and your time more than anything else. I promise to only bring you things that are going to make you more money. They're going to make you more motivated to make your life better. So give me a little solid here. Subscribe to the channel. This is how we grow. Also, leave me a review on what you want better and who you want on. I promise you will do it. Hey, if you're a business owner right now and you like the things you were hearing on this podcast, I have something that I haven't talked about publicly before that's just for you. It's called our SMB Boardroom. This is for small business owners who want to grow. It is for business owners who are on their way to making at least 7 figures a year. If this is you, hit the link down below. Talk to our team. This is the place that can be your late night emergency call for the things that go bump in the night in your business. If right now you feel like you're plateauing or you feel like you don't know how to handle your growth, we got you. So click the link below, SMB Boardroom. We just built it for you builders. Kind of obsessed with it. And I think if you are a builder, there's no place you're going to want to be except here. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description.
You are not meant to stay in minimum wage.
A study showed that job hopping beat inflation for 49% of job hoppers.
We shouldn't be trying to raise the minimum wage. We should be trying to get people out of minimum wage jobs.
Have you ever had an HR experience?
Bad bosses are the number one reason there are great entrepreneurs. A lot of people don't know how to quit. They don't know the right way to quit. They don't know how to ask for more money. They don't know how to move on to the next thing.
Bring the band in.
Hey, it's the Big Deal Podcast, and I'm Codie Sanchez. For those who don't just want to be rich but free and do what it actually takes to get there. Okay, today we got 3 good things for you. First of all, what to do if you're miserable and you hate your job. 2, why corporations and institutions are something we don't trust very much anymore when it comes to jobs. 3, what can you do about it? We're going to break that down in all its detail today, so hang out with us. I want to share a quick business tip that I've been thinking a lot about lately. It's eliminate, automate, delegate. So if you do tasks in that order in your business, it runs more smoothly. I'm always looking for tools to help eliminate tasks, then automate them, and then finally delegate those that are absolutely necessary. One of those tools is Riverside. Not only can it record 4K video and audio remotely to make sure your podcast quality is top notch, but it's also drastically improved my team's editing speed with the text-based editor. Transcribes your footage, removes silences in one click, and creates these short clips just by selecting the text. Even better, if you make a mistake, which we try not to do, you can delete the sentence and the transcript will delete it from your video instantly. So Riverside has an in-platform editor where you can upload your own content too. So it's not just footage recorded on Riverside that gets the special treatment. So how do people find new podcasts? Often from seeing clips, right? You see a bunch of mine. Riverside gets this, and that's why I like their AI Magic Clips. Analyzes moments in your podcast that have the most potential to get traction online. That saves hours of listening to your podcast for the 5th time to find the perfect clip. Riverside's got you covered. We're always trying to remove, automate, not add, and complicate. But don't waste your time doing what Riverside can do for you. I got you guys a deal. If you want to try it for yourself, get the Riverside link in the description and use the code CODY for an exclusive discount, just for y'all. Our contrarian idea of the day is basically this, that young people these days all seem to hate their jobs and not like what they're doing, and do videos like this on the internet, which you guys might have seen, which went super viral. A 21-year-old with a TikTok video that has been taken down because she got all this backlash. Everybody's talking about it. I want you guys to hear a part of it. And instead of bashing on this young woman because it sucks to be young in your 20s and broke, let's talk about what to do about this. All right, here we go.
I know I'm probably just being so dramatic and annoying, but this is my first job, like my first 9-to-5 job after college, and I'm in person, and I'm commuting in the city, and it takes me forever to get there. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford living in the city right now, so that's off the table. Like, duh! If I was able to walk to work, and it'd be fine, but I'm not. So it literally takes me, like, I leave here, like, I get on the train at 7:30, and I don't get home till, like, 6:15 earliest, and then, like, I don't have time to do anything. I want to shower, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. I don't have time or energy to cook my dinner either. Like, I don't have energy to work out. Like, that's out the window. Like, I'm so upset.
Dude, I feel that. Rachel, you live in New York. I bet
I
you
do.
feel some of this.
I don't work a corporate job. What are your thoughts on this, honestly?
Well, I guess this is what I kind of would say if you were young, lost, and broke. I realized the other day that I wish somebody had said to young me when this was going down that there's some truth that nobody really tells you, which is that the second that you leave school, you turn into an adult and you realize what that actually means. And on average, you get a challenging white-collar college grad job. You're going to work 8 to 10 hours a day. You'll finish and be tired and stressed. You'll just want a glass of booze or weed and food and Netflix to dull it all. But then you'll find out, like, your fridge is empty. So you got to go to the grocery store. You'll go from fluorescent lights at work to fluorescent lights and banging carts to mindlessly wandering around because, I don't know, you can't even remember the right aisle for pasta. But then you find it, and then there's like 1,500 options except the one you want. So whatever, you like grab the fucking bag and you walk like cattle through a grate. And then the checkout line is, of course, so long, which is dumb because it's rush hour and basically the same every single week. So they should know the difference. But like, you remember that it's not the checkout lady's fault. So you kind of fake smile at each other because the only thing more tedious and monotonous than your life right now is probably hers. But you got the food. So then you lug the groceries 10 blocks back to your house. The plastic is flimsied, so it's digging into your fingers, and the wine is punishing you with its weight before you even get to drink it. And then finally you get home. You eat your pasta by yourself, but you rush, so it's still kind of hard. And then you drink enough wine until you can crawl into bed for another day of the same monotony while you wonder if this will be the entirety of your existence. That is what they don't tell you about your first job, is that it won't actually crush you with the difficulty. It'll crush you with the banality and torturous meaninglessness of it all. Because you don't get the right to earn to start And even worse, you don't get the right to challenging problems. And this is the truth. And the only silver lining is that if you get through this all, the eye-numbing boredom, and you prove that you are not just okay, but great, you will eventually get to do things you love and make more money than you ever imagined. However, it will feel kind of like slowly pulling off your fingernails one by one at first, and there is no other way. But the adults should have told you that. They should have told this young woman that, because many of them are still stuck in the cycle and too terrified to admit it and unwilling to look your disappointment in the eye to tell you kind of the truth. So you don't need to ask them if they're happy or not. You can see it on their faces. And I think that's what I realized, that young people kind of say we hate it here, but that's because they don't actually understand what here is and how long they have to be here. Your first job, it's like the DMV. It's shitty. Nothing makes sense. It's not efficient. You don't know what you're doing. They take an awful picture of you. They make you use it as a license. It takes way longer than you think to get out of there, but you're not supposed to stay there. And that's why you can handle the DMV. It's a hell, but it's temporary. I guess that's my long rant on what somebody should have told this young woman and what somebody should tell all of us about our first job. It sucks. Expect it. Adults who don't tell you that are lying to you because they are stuck in it and they know it. And it'll be okay because there's a way out afterwards. I obviously have no strong feelings on this whatsoever.
Obviously, none at all. On that, let's get into the idea of the week.
Yeah, what is the idea of the week this week?
You have to leave your job or you will make less money, except if you do this. A study showed that job hopping beat inflation for 49% of job hoppers based on a Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta report. For those that stayed, only 42% got inflation-beating raises. So you are basically losing the game if you stayed in your role. So inflation is like 2 to 3% per year, right? So if you're a high performer, you could be seeing like 7 to 12% as a raise. That would be awesome. Like that would be so sick. But if you're not seeing like at least a raise, that's 2 to 3%, inflation's beating you. So you're literally losing money by staying in that job. Yeah. So on that, how much job hopping should we actually be doing?
You are not meant to stay in minimum wage, for instance. Like everybody wants to raise the minimum wage, and I think that's lying to us about what actually matters. We shouldn't be trying to raise the minimum wage. We should be trying to get people out of minimum wage jobs. That should be a stepping stone to a higher level job, and we should have more advancement in our careers as opposed to stagnation and expecting the stagnant levels of learning to stay at the same price or payment. I think job hopping is totally fine, but it shouldn't be lateral. So lots of different ways for you to jump a job. You can jump a job from side to side. You could jump a job from up and down. And you want to make sure that as often as possible, you're jumping from down to up. And so if you look at my career, I think I stayed a year and a half on average for my first 3 jobs. I stayed that long because I pressed and asked for a raise at each job for performance. By the way, this doesn't work if you suck. You know, if you suck, you don't know if your performance is actually driving revenue to the company. You're not in, let's call it the top, 40% of people that do the same job as you. You need to get better at the thing that you're doing right now as opposed to go try to negotiate for more. But if you are a top performer, then I think you need to be asking for a raise every year, maybe twice a year, depending on what you do. And then if you have no opportunity for you to make more money, that is when you jump. And that's what I did in every single job. So I jumped for cash and then I jumped for title. And the reason jumping for title is interesting is because if you right now, in finance, this is how it was, but it could apply to lots of different companies. So say you come in as an analyst, which is the lowest level. An analyst has what's called a pay range, right? So they're only really allowed to pay analysts within this band. And so if you want to get the next level of payment, you really got to go to an associate level. So I wouldn't just leave to go be an analyst at Morgan Stanley to then go be an analyst at Merrill Lynch. I would jump from analyst to associate. And with that title change, typically what is the difference between one job and another when it comes to title? It's responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Asking for a higher title is really just saying, I am willing to do harder and more work. That's what that means. It's not that you've been there longer. It's not anything besides that. So those are the 2 things I would think about is if you can't get a raise, if you can't get a title jump, and you are a top performer, it's time to move.
You were talking about how you've been in roles for like a year and a half on average. What was that process like the actual approach to going to your employers and asking for a raise?
Negotiation one-on-one. If you guys want to make more money, learn how to negotiate. That's the name of the game. Chris Voss never split the difference. I think the best way to learn negotiation is by listening to him. There's really like 3 things you need to know if you want to negotiate a salary raise at your company. The first thing that you need to know is you need to know what your job is worth. So how do you decide what your job is worth? There's 2 ways to do that. The first way is to go and look at competitors from other companies and see what they're willing to pay. If you are a graphic designer at a company, go look out and in your sector and in your job responsibility and in your geography, how much do they pay another graphic designer at a company of similar size? You go to Indeed.com, you check out your competitive listings. Okay, great. Now you know. You're paid $67,000. The average is $70,000. You've got some ability to negotiate between the 2. The second way that you can determine how much you make is by figuring out how much revenue you drive to the company. How much value do you bring to the company? And that, I think, is the equation that most people do not have, where you don't realize what you make somebody for every hour that you spend inside of the company. So I would try to figure that out. So if you're a graphic designer at a company, I would try to figure out, well, do my graphic designs help sell ads? You know, do these graphic designs go in books, and what would they cost them to do it somewhere else? After you understand how much you make, understand what makes your boss look better or cooler. And I don't want to spend that much time on like salary raises because for some reason, people just don't do it. I think there's something like 30% of people that will ever negotiate their salary on an annual basis. 70% of people just will never do it. You guys will never do it. I don't know why. You don't want to hear about it on the internet. It's the easiest way to make money is to make more money doing the current thing that you're already doing with 1 or 2 conversations. But for some reason, everybody wants to hear about side hustles as opposed to negotiating their salaries. And most people think that their bosses will not give them a raise. And I actually think it's the opposite. I think your boss will give you a raise. You just suck at asking for it because you don't know what you're worth, you don't know what the competitive landscape is, and you don't know what matters to your boss. But if you knew that your boss had a quota that he had to hit, or your boss has, revenue goals that they have to hit, and if you could help your boss hit that, your boss makes more money, then you could negotiate better. I'm sure in the comments, there's going to be 472 people going, that must be nice that you could do that, but I can't. I don't know why that is.
Have you ever had to negotiate before going into a role? So say you're doing one of those like lateral movements. Was there a way that you were able to make that actually move that was a step up by negotiating before you walk in the door? I feel like that's an area where people get really nervous because you're like, oh my gosh, what happens if this new employer says no?
If you want to make more money in negotiating a salary when you're jumping jobs, one of my favorite ways to do that is using what's called a shadow influence. And so a lot of times we don't want to be the bad guy, right? And so when you go to negotiate, you go, hey, I really would like to make $75,000, not 70. And they're like, okay, greedy. Or at least that's what you think in your mind. What's interesting is I instead would say something like this. My significant other and I will have to make some changes. We'll either have to move because of this. I'm going to have to do less work with him because of this. And so I've really sort of agreed upon the next role with him because I'm going to pour so much of myself into it. I need to make at least $75,000 for our next step as a couple. And so I've kind of gone back and forth with him on that. And so for that reason, I really need the $75,000. You'll find men do this all the time with their wives. Well, I've got to check with the wife. It's a brilliant move because you have a shadow balance, right? You can do the same thing. I've got to check with my partner. I've got to check with my significant other. I really can't spend time away from the kids for that amount. We've said as a family, we understand sacrifices for our family based on this amount. But anything less than that, I need to spend time with my kids. So I would use a shadow influence, really, really useful. And who can argue with you? They can't go to you and go, well, tell your boyfriend to go fuck off. That doesn't work, right? Tell your wife her opinion doesn't matter. So you've put yourself as the good guy, let me talk to the wife. Let me talk to the other guy. It's really smart. The second thing that I would do is you could negotiate something along the lines of, when I look out at the competitive landscape, I see that this role is worth X. And for my experience level, when I've spoken to other companies, they say my experience level is worth X. Now, I want to go with your company. I love what you guys do. You're my number one, no side pieces, just you. But I want to understand where the difference is between what I see the market is and what other people say my compensation is versus yours. Do you think that we could come up to that level since that's what it looks like market is? And that way I would feel really comfortable. I wouldn't even negotiate for something over what market is. Again, what are you doing? You're using a shadow influence, which is this is what the market says. I can't help it. This is what everybody else says. I can't help it. And at least that way you don't look greedy for no reason. You've got data to back up hard conversations.
Has anybody ever come to you and asked for a raise? And I want to hear about the first time that happened because I feel like that would be kind of jarring. Somebody as a business owner yourself somebody coming up to you being like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm getting paid enough. Like that must feel...
I don't think anybody does it well the first time. So like, just feel better about that. And it's always going to annoy your boss because what are you doing? You're just saying like, I want to take more money out of your pocket and put it into mine. And like, we're humans. And so that's how they're going to respond to you, at least physically. So as much as you can put yourself on their side of the table versus on the opposite side of the table is really key. How it's been done poorly is like, we had this one video editor that he had no idea what his job was worth. He had no idea what the market was. And he just threw out a wild number. He's like, I want to make this. And I was like, okay, cool. Why? And he's like, well, because that's what I think I'm worth. Why? Well, because, I think that that's what the job is. And it just like house of cards fell real quick, right? Now, that one kind of pissed me off because he wanted a crazy number. I think he wanted $200,000 to be a part-time editor for short form videos. And he was living in another country. And I was like, the thing is, you've watched a lot of my videos and I've told you to negotiate, but you forgot the original thing, which is you have to understand what your role is worth, and your role is just simply not worth that. And so that's point one. The second thing that can be, kind of tough when people have negotiated with me before, the worst thing that you can do, and think about this with your partner too, there's something called set and setting. So if you want to have a negotiation with your partner and you want to get what you want from your partner, should you ask your partner when he's coming home from work, he's beat up, he's like tired, it was a long day, he's like schlepping his bags in and out of the thing, and the second that he comes in the door, you're like, can you please take out the trash and like clean up? The house is a total mess. What do you think his reaction is going to be? He's going to be like, get the fuck out of here, get off me. I'm like, I just walked in the door, calm down. Yet this is really normal. We all do this to our partners. And so instead, you could have the exact same question, but if you set your setting more appropriately, you'll probably win. So if instead of doing that, when your person comes in, you go, honey, you have like a little cocktail for him. You maybe like come and give a big hug. You help him with his bags. You like set it down. You give him a kiss. You're like, I love you. Then give him like 20 minutes, get him to chill out, get him to sit on the couch. And what do? Set and settings. You're like, oh, you've got a whiskey. I've got a whiskey. We're both hanging out. Now you're more chill. Hey, you know what? Not right now, but like in the next like 20 or something, can we clean up around the house? It's a little bit chaotic in here. And like, would you mind taking out the trash? It's too heavy for me. And what do you think your likelihood of him saying yes is going to be? Way higher, right? And so it's the same thing with your boss. If you come in and your boss has just come out of a bunch of meetings and you've not scheduled it and you come in hard and it's after negative earnings report and you say like, I want to make this, your boss is immediately fight or flight, typically fight, and it's not going to go over well. Instead, you can do it the opposite. Wait until you're going to have some moment where you do something cool for your boss. So you're like, oh man, we just had an incredible launch. Look, the numbers are way up. Like, I'm so happy. Oh, we have this new hire. Bop, bop, bop. And then, you talk to them, you celebrate, and you go, given this, I'd really love to talk to you about potential to earn more on a go-forward basis. Would you be open to talking about how if I do X and Y and Z, I could potentially make this amount? And because you've set and setting, right, you might win.
So like the raise is out of the question. And the reason being is because your manager is just really unattentive. Like the person watching you, like they are the problem and you can't grow in that space. You can't get the new role. How do you expect somebody to go about leaving their job then?
Well, I mean, I've done this 6 times. I've left jobs that didn't work. I'm corporate as they come. Most people on the internet are literally unemployable. Like they've never had a real job. They don't understand people who have jobs. They tell you guys every single day why you should just quit and go all in and it doesn't matter. And they've only ever been content creators. And it's always annoyed me. And I'm the opposite of that. I was a total wuss and it took me like 12 years before I could fully quit and just go on my own. I remember I was walking with one of my CEOs at the time who ran a company called First Trust, a guy I still love and respect to this day. And I told him what I wanted to do and how I wanted to earn more money and how I wanted the business to grow. And he kind of told me, not your boat, not your oars. If you want to row in the other direction, I welcome that, but it's not here. I was like, kind of gave me like a little bit of an ultimatum. You can either do this or you can bail, get on board or get motoring. What I ended up doing is I finally decided that I would leave the company the second that I made enough money that I could replace what my monthly nut was. So the amount that I had to make every month in order to get my expenses covered. And so I started doing that by doing a little side hustle, which I called business buying on the side. When that got big enough, then I left the company, which is usually how I think about doing this. The moral of the story is something like 60 to 70% of people, if they're going to leave a job, they leave it because their boss sucks. Because, I think bad bosses are the number one reason they're great entrepreneurs. And if there are less bad bosses, there'd be less great entrepreneurs. And so if at the end of the day, you have an unreasonable boss that will not work for you, you must leave. And when you leave, I think you have two ways to do it. You go lateral in order to get a little bit more pay and the ability to have a better boss in order to, hopefully, if your next job, you can't do it in this one, you do an up and down jump where you get a higher pay, a higher title too. But at some point, you do just have to leave, and that's okay.
I think we should now move on to Steal My Rich Friend, which is not going to be Steal My Rich Friend this week because the friends are actually people that responded to a tweet that you put up earlier today.
Oh, and by the way, you guys, if you're listening to this right now, we're going to start doing a bunch of Q&As with questions that we get on YouTube. So if you're listening to us on YouTube right now at the Big Deal Podcast, go comment on the videos, drop your questions in there, and Rachel's going to keep pulling those. And so whether those are questions we answer or we do a list of them and we get those questions to people on the pod, it'll be a chance for us to kind of get to know each other.
When should you jump from doing a side hustle that's not working? So instead of quitting your main job, when can you quit that side job if it's just not working out? Like how much time and effort should you be putting into that?
Yeah, I've failed like 3x the number of actual businesses that I've succeeded in. There's a saying in hiring and firing, which is hire slow, fire fast. It's the same with side hustles. It's pick your side hustle kind of slowly and bail on it quickly if you see that there's not product market fit. Like if you look at the reason why small businesses fail, something like 70% of small businesses, which would be like startups, fail because they never hit product market fit. And what does product market fit mean? It means nobody gives you money for you to give them X that you've created. So I would say a side hustle is one point at this stage of your career for you to make money, right? So if it's not making you money, it's not a side hustle, it's called charity. And you can do charity, but know that that's what you're doing. And so for me, I got a 90-day rule, which is if you can't start a side hustle and make money that is profitable dollars in your pocket after 90 days, then you bail on it. And you could try the next one. And since this isn't your main thing, it's perfectly fine for you to have some shots on goal because you don't actually know what it feels like to hit a three-pointer until you have tried and tried and tried and tried again. And then eventually you'll be like, oh, that's what it feels like when it's easy. And you won't know that if you don't have a lot of shots on goal.
Interesting that you say 90 because there's this rule. It's called like the 21-90 rule. And it suggests that it takes 90 days for a habit to become a permanent lifestyle change. So I like that you said 90. How long did it take before you hit break even from leaving and then growing further?
Oh, well, we were talking about this because you had a job, right? You don't think about all the expenses that goes into when you're doing it by yourself. You had a job working with a bunch of podcasts, right, where you were paid W-2, and then you decided to go out on your own. And then it took you, about a month before you were gross revenue making more than you were previously, right? Because you probably didn't keep a P&L, I would guess.
I did keep a P&L.
Look at you, nerd.
Yeah.
I'm so proud.
Yeah, I did. But so it probably took like 3 months.
Okay, it took
for me
3 months for you to hit where you were making more than your previous role or where you were profitable?
To when I was profitable, but that is because I started saving up really early for the things that I knew I was going to have to replace crazy early on. So while I still had my 9 to 5, I bought things for the company and was able to, with much, much, much smaller, like selling my clothes on the internet type style, making money, afford to buy things like a new laptop, like a home setup and things like that. If I didn't do that, I think it would have taken me months. Yeah, definitely like 6 months.
What would you need to know then? You'd need to know from the time you leave to at least 90 days after that, you're probably in the red. You're losing money. Maybe at about 90 days, if you're a services-based business like you are, so that means that you're trading, your skill set and time for somebody else's dollars. Those are the fastest businesses that give you your cash on cash return right away, like give you your money back. I didn't start making more money in my side hustles than in my main job for like years. I mean, because I made a lot of money. I was making maybe $1 million before I quit. So in order for me to make up $1 million in annual salary, it took me a long time of investing in small businesses, of doing investments, of having a few of them pay off quickly. It's not like a paycheck. So when you're getting a paycheck, you're like, I don't know, it's $5,000 every 2 weeks, $5,000 every 2 weeks, $5,000 every 2 weeks, and maybe you get a little bonus. When you are running your own business, I wish it was that even. It's not. Like, we had a couple months where we lost money. We had a couple months where we made a ton of money. And so you also have to be able to do what's called forward projecting and figure out what you might do on a go-forward basis. And so if you're listening to this, assume that the 6-month emergency fund that you have You're going to need more than that if you want to run a small business, and it's going to take a while for you to break even between the two. And so don't expect anything different than that. And otherwise, I think you set yourself up for failure.
We got quite a few questions on people that were trying to balance high stress jobs while balancing families. And one of the questions I thought were interesting within there, the person was basically like, listen, like my job is just way too high stress. I am going to have to go to a lower paying job. Like that's just how this is going to have to work for me. What advice do you have for people that are going to have to make a jump? And in order, like that trade-off is going to be like more family time, yes, and maybe less stress, but a lower paying salary. Like, do you have any words of wisdom there?
I always ask myself, what if it was easy? And so the team hears this from me a lot. I think you sometimes need a mental reframe. You said a statement that I am not sure is true. And the statement is that no matter what, in order to have less stress, I need to make less money. I would say back to you, what if you don't? And what if it's in fact easy for you to not do that? And so once you start asking yourself questions like that, it just opens your brain entirely. And so now you might say something like, I might just be one hire away from a totally different business. For instance, let's say you're an attorney, and so it's super high stress, you have billable hours, you're feeling a little bit trapped by that, and you don't know how to get away from it except for you to have a lower paying job. I don't know. Can you take some consulting on the side that is project-based as opposed to hourly-based? And can you hire somebody off Upwork and a mixture of ChatGPT to do a part of the job that's lower level for you? And so you're having to bill a bunch of things and hours at a law firm that perhaps you don't actually need to if you go out on a project basis. Could you also structure something as a productized service as opposed to an hourly billable rate as an attorney? And so, a lot of things in life for me are just, are you asking yourself the right questions? And if you're asking yourself the right questions, you will often find answers that nobody else will. The problem is we get constrained in thinking that puts us inside of a box, not even in first principles thinking, but in, societal thinking. And I would want to break out of that mindset.
And last question, how to quit your job if you are the boss?
God, we just hired a guy for a company called BizScout, and he worked at a large marketplace. And I bought this company, and he's going to go in as the CEO. And the sign that you have a great hire is that the company that he's leaving or she's leaving, they don't want them to leave. And so they want to extend their time, even though they're saying, I'm going to leave, that the company goes, wait, can you give us more time? And that's what they did with Bobby. Bobby did the right thing. First of all, he said, I would never leave a company and only give you 2 weeks. I'm going to give you 4 to 6 weeks. And if you need it, great. If you don't need it, great. And negotiating that between the two companies is a major move. And here's why you might want to do that. Because we found some statistics that basically show that upwards of 60, 70, or even 80% of people regret leaving the job that they had previously. And then another, let's call it 60% of people, actually thought that they would get a better next job and hopped for something that they thought was better, but it actually wasn't. So think about that for a second. If it's the case that you might actually regret going back, why wouldn't you diminish that regret by not burning the bridge? Everybody always talks about you should burn all the bridges. I would do the exact opposite. I would say to your boss, I love it here. I need to take a chance on myself. I want to go do this other big risky thing. I would never put you in a bad position. So let me give you somewhere between, does 3 to 5 to 6 weeks work for you? If you only want 2 weeks, awesome. But I'm here for you regardless. And I'm happy to take, sort of a one-off 1099 consulting thing if you need it on the time. I know it's hard to find good people. Your boss is going to go, that's awesome. Thank you. They'll say, good. I need it. I don't need it. And if you want an even more pro move, you could say, I have a few people that I think would be really great for this job. So that's what I did when I left my last private equity company. I said, I'm leaving. I think you should hire my number 2, that was my COO at the time, and you should put her in my position. And she's still there to this day, and she's crushing it. And I allowed her to become the CEO of a division, and I allowed them to have a very easy transition. And now I'm still friends with the CEO. And oh, by the way, this guy's a billionaire and wants to invest in my stuff. Don't burn the bridge, actually. Even if you fucking hate your boss, which at some point, sorry, Jim, I hated this guy. And I hated the managers of this company. And I thought some of the managers of that company were the most chauvinistic idiots I'd ever met in my entire life. I had my ass slapped so hard, I had a red handprint on it at a company meeting in front of a bunch of other people. Shout out, Mike, you know who you are. On the other hand, I learned a ton there. And so I actually gave a really smooth transition. I'm friends to this day with a bunch of the people there. And some of them have invested in some of my companies. And so even if you hate them, I think remember that most humans, all of us are flawed. There's some people that hate you. There are many people that hate me. And so giving people a little benefit of the doubt is probably a good thing.
I think we should transition now to CEO story time. John, you have some pretty aggressive views on working from home. I work from home. I would love to hear your thoughts and really just rip into this topic.
I think one of the worst things we ever did was try to tell people that remote work was better, myself included. Now that we have an office here, really cool studio, we've got our small group. There's no fluorescent lights. There's no drop ceilings in sight. We've realized how much more fun it is to be with a group of people who are crazily building something even into the deep hours of the night. And that there is something really invigorating about other humans being around you, doing the thing that you're going to spend more time in your life doing than almost anything else except for maybe sleeping. I think if you are young, hungry, and you want to make big moves and make a bunch of money, you should not take a remote job. You want to be in the office. Now, you want to be in a cool office. You hopefully don't want to have a 75-minute commute. You want to optimize a little bit for lifestyle. But you should try to be around other winners because it's way more fun. The thing that's interesting about your job is you're remote, but you kind of pop in and pop out of here, right? So you get a little bit of this. And then you're in New York City, in the city proper, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're actually able to engage with a ton of people every single day. And so that makes things slightly different. But for most people, who here feels like you could have more Zoom meetings and that'd be really fun for you? Nobody. Mm-hmm. Like, how can you be inspired and want to do big things when you're just on Zoom 24/7? We are tribal communal animals that need other people around us. A fast way to unhappiness and lack of motivation is sitting in front of your computer screen for 10 hours a day, Zoom meeting each other.
I've actually gone against this too. So I used to be diehard work from home, and now I go into offices probably 2 or 3 days a week. So
by choice, right?
I'll say yes, by choice. Half a day. I'm not a full dayer, and I do not plan to be. But I do think that it's been since 2020 that I've been remote, and it's 2024. My first job was remote, and it was really difficult. I'm sure for other people as well. It's like, how do you get seen as somebody that's worth promoting if you are a remote employee?
It's kind of useful for us to know. We were talking about this today. It's like, you going to hang out in your pajamas for 2 years post-COVID, and you kind of forget how to put outfits on and how to do your hair and makeup. And, you don't have to do all of the things that adults need to do. Mm-hmm. And so we had just hired somebody the other day, and she had a real tough time coming back after a couple years off work. And so I think once you get out of the workforce, real hard to get back in. Even if you just keep your little Tootsie in there, just like one little finger, I think it's really important to try.
So one thing, as a work from homer, you have to have crazy discipline. It sucks. Sometimes you really have to be on top of it. What advice do you have on people transitioning from working from home to a full-time job do you have that don't have that level of discipline?
Here's the tough truth. If you stop playing a sport for a while, let's say you stop running track, and you don't do it for 2 years or a year, and then you try to get back on the team, collegially, let's say at college, and you expect to, after not running for a certain period of time, a year plus, for you to get chosen and start winning is basically never going to, you would never think that. You would never go, listen, I haven't played the sport in 2 years or a year. I'm going to go out and I'm going to crush it. That's just not the case. You're not going to. So the tough part is, I think if you haven't played the game in a while, you have to play harder than everybody else and longer than everybody else. And there's basically no other way around it. If you want to get back in the game of being an employee, you got to employ harder than the rest of everybody else. The older you are, the harder that gets, myself included. If I was going to go back into the workforce and have to work for somebody else, not myself, I would probably have to scale up pretty quickly my ability to use ChatGPT. I'm not really that good at that right now. I would have to scale up really quickly how to use, Slack and integrations and all of that. I'm not that good at that. So just expect a 20 to 30% work harder rate for 6 months, which means that you start a job as an executive assistant, you come in 20 to 30% earlier than everybody else, and you probably stay 20 to 30% longer than everybody else, and you're working quite a bit harder with less distractions because you're just not good enough yet. And I only think you need to do that for 90 days to 6 months, at which point you've normalized. Anybody who tells you can just jump right back in, it's probably not going to be the case. You're going to have to work harder for a period because you're just not as good anymore.
We've been talking a lot about you, as you said before, you call yourself as corporate as they come. I've never worked anywhere with an HR department. What has your experience been? Have you ever had an HR experience? These are the kind of stories I want to hear.
Oh, God. The only time, so I think I've had 6 people leave me in my career running businesses and divisions where I didn't let them go or they moved on to a new division within the company, like 6 people. And of those 6 people, all of them except one, it's too soon to tell, we'll see if she comes back, have come back and wanted a job in some way, shape, or form, which is really interesting. And I did rehire one of them who's been awesome. But the only one of them that really left in a bad way, everybody else left total pro moves. The only one that left badly was a young woman. And she went to HR as a partner at the firm. I didn't run the company at this time. And basically said that she thought that I was paying less because she was a woman. And I was like, the thing is, I also have a vagina. And so I don't see why I would do that. And then it's a sales company. And so I don't actually determine pay. It's like how much you sell is how much you make. And so one thing that I would be really careful of these days, turning yourself into a victim when you leave. And this is like tough advice that I'm sure the internet's not going to love. The reason that, she wasn't making as much money is because she wasn't bringing in as much money. End of story. And she really deminimized her credibility by using a story like that. And at least for me, because, thankfully I am a woman and a Latina, so I got the double check mark out there for all of the PC world, is that I don't really take well to being blackmailed on any way, shape, or form. So I wouldn't really be scared by somebody coming out and saying, well, I'm going to say something because I'm a woman. I don't care. Like, as long as we are not doing something wrong, if we're doing all the right things, I will stand up for our practices and our employees. And so that person, she's since come back, kind of apologized, talked about it since then. I would never recommend her again. And I would never push her on to the next level. Now, I think sometimes you do stuff when you're young that you wish you hadn't done. And I have plenty of those. Like if I look back at young Codie, I think the first time that I asked for a raise, I just assigned a percentage to it. And I asked it like after I had just gotten, a title change and a little bit of a raise. So I've done it wrong myself so many times too, guys. But what I would say is it really never ends well if you use the victim card. Your bosses are going to remember. It's not going to get you ahead long term. You're better than that. If that sort of stuff is going on, just get out, go find a new role somewhere where you don't feel like that's happening to you. But I would never play the victim. One thing we almost didn't cover that I want to make sure we do is if you work for a big company or a company with a good name, that can last you like decades. I haven't worked at Goldman Sachs since like 2008. And I was like a peon analyst nobody back then. And yet the first thing people say about me still is that I worked at Goldman Sachs. You worked at a couple of companies that are really big name podcasts. We won't mention them. But I hired you because of that. I mean, also because you're lovely and you're Rachel, but like I didn't know those other things. And so the real problem that I think we don't realize is we have to like treasure the couple big names that we get because they can actually catapult you for the rest of your career. So what did you do when you quit? Because you're real fresh off of that to make sure that they didn't hate you and they would say nice things about you.
I gave enough time. I really tried to prepare like a Notion page or like a doc of everything that I did, explaining it. I watched a bunch of videos like this, explaining like how I can quit my job in the best way. I liked my job. Like I didn't quit my job because I didn't like it. So I think that's like a unique experience. I quit my job because I was ready for the next thing. And the next thing I felt like was what I'm doing right now. So I think that kind of put me in a unique place. And I also did something that I didn't know was going to happen when I quit. But after I quit, they asked me to come back. They asked me to come back a little bit on like a contracting basis just a few times. And every time they did that, I said yes, as much as I possibly could. I even tried one time when I was like trying to work off internet that like was so bad. I'm looking at it like I probably shouldn't have said yes. But every time they asked me to do something, even after I left, I tried to be as helpful as humanly possible because I really liked that role. And I think that has served me well.
You can also leave your mark on an organization for years to come if you do SOPs of what your job is. Yeah. Like if you uniquely tie it up, one thing that I didn't realize back in the day is uniquely tying it up also gave me the frameworks to then use in my next job. So like I was like, oh, well, every single time I'm going to document how I reach out to clients. I'm going to document how I engage from the hours of 9 to 5. I'm going to document all the important phone numbers that I have. And that's actually really not hard. That is all very easy to do. It just takes some work and nobody does it. And if you wrap a bow like that for your last employer, your likelihood of getting an incredible letter of recommendation, of them investing in you in the future if you want, of them even introducing you to other people for other jobs is actually really, really big. And I was like I really like believed my own bullshit for a lot of years when I was working. And so I was really like, I kind of thought I was a badass. And so I think there were probably 2 times where I left a company in a not great way, where I left a company and I said, I'm out, I'm going to a competitor, 2 weeks, see you later, and I kind of had a chip on my shoulder. If I could have done that again, I would have done it differently.
On that, I think that is a great way to end this episode, Codie.
We did this because 49% of people in the U.S. right now say they want to quit their job in some way, shape, or form, which is a lot of you. A lot of people don't know how to quit. They don't know the right way to quit. They don't know how to ask for more money, and they don't know how to move on to the next thing. We have one deal here. We try to give you the deal, and we ask for one deal in return, which is that you seal the deal, that you subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I do think that you all are builders in a world of consumers. You're super rare. I see each and every one of you. To me,
you know that I got it. No need to look all in the bag. Stunting like this because I work so hard. I'm the best.